Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the show. Once again, we are here in beautiful Salt Lake City at the USA Climbing's National Training Center. Today is the first stop in the North American Cup Series, a series of 5 events that will take place in the United States and in Canada, and ultimately will cover all 3 disciplines of climbing: lead, speed, and bouldering. Today, we're focused purely on bouldering. We're now in the final round with our top 6 men and top 6 women vying for a $5,000 cash purse and a chance to take home the gold medal. Just a few moments, we're going to bring out all 12 of our finalists. We're going to introduce them to you right in front of this backdrop. So thank you so much for being here. We hope you enjoy the show. Now it's only a matter of seconds until we bring out these athletes. For now, just enjoy the mountains. Oh, here they are. All 12 of them already here. We've got Nikaya Sanders, Quinn Mason, Maddie Dennis, Allison Vest, Chloe Koskoy, and lastly, Cece Coffin coming into finals, sitting in first place for the ladies. And then for the gentlemen, it's Brian Squire, Ben Hanna, Zach Gala, Kai Leitner, Charlie Barron, and lastly, Ross Fulkerson coming into finals, sitting in first place. So, ladies and gentlemen at home, these are your athletes. As you can see, they're here having a good time. I wonder if they even know they're on camera, but it matters not. They're here to give you a show, and in just a moment, they're going to set off to do route preview. We're going to have 2 minutes per boulder, and we're going to take the show from there. I got Cody Grotsky, setter, here next to me again. He's going to help us have some insight into these final boulders as we head that direction. Cody, what do you think of these boulders? I mean, I'm sure you like them.
Yeah, Al, thanks. These boulders, I'm really excited to see these athletes on them, honestly. I mean, you know, it's always exciting to watch finals, no matter the discipline, and of course, no matter the field. But right now, especially, you see Josh Larson and Enrico Bastracchi and Jeremy right there hanging out, taking some photos. It's always exciting to see what the athletes will do. We have some educated guesses based on qualies, semis, on how the athletes performed. But it's really cool, just from like the setting perspective, right, to see what they might do and how they might do it.
Yeah, during semis, were there some things that happened that you didn't expect?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to be frank, I thought that men's 3, if you guys remember on the far right side on the slab, it had
the tiny crimp.
Had the tiny crimp, right? The Houdini match. We talked about that a little bit. I don't know if we can pull that replay there. That kind of surprised me that no one really, I mean, aside from Kai, no one really got even the zone on that. And I think that it surprised the whole setting crew. Just because like it was a pretty tricky move, but it was also like a raw feat of strength, right? Like you have this really small cramp in your left hand, and then you switch to a really small cramp in your right hand.
Sure.
Move forward, and it was just it's like something like that.
You expect somebody like Zach to just be able to hang feet or no feet, hang the whole.
Of course.
And Kai was fortunate to be able to stem his way across from that starting volume. Wound up getting the left foot out early.
He sure was. Yep.
That was pretty cool, and that was that was a big difference. As we talked about, the zone can separate things, and it certainly did in semis.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Kai is for sure the tallest competitor in the field, and I would say that most fields that he competes in, whether it's a national cup, a North American Cup, a finals for the IFSC World Cup, right? But that being said, he's also a fantastically strong athlete. I mean, it's not just his height that is getting him here, right?
Yeah,
and we talked a lot about it earlier. Sometimes there's boxes that it might be easier for a smaller person to get in that Kai gets in, and then he's able to explode out of them, and that's just as impressive as seeing him maybe pull through something that another competitor might not be able to.
Yeah, of course. I absolutely agree. Quickly, before we run out of time here, our competitors are checking out our first boulders. Here we have the ladies checking out boulder number 1. Could you tell us a little bit about what we're looking at here?
Of course, yeah. So women's 1 here, we have, you can see the 2 flashed what will likely be the handholds. You can see Cece right there grabbing onto them. That is allowed in the rules. They cannot touch any other holds besides those start holds. And then
starting hands and feet.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then they will kind of power stand up into that small undercling. They will do this very delicate step across to the left, at which point they will then grab the left hand, that middle flat hold, at which point they will then match feet, then go over to the cheetah dual text hold, that shiny hold on the left, and then kind of explode up to that blue pill volume, hit the smear, and then mantle up into the top.
And it looks like they're going to have to do that mantle before they can control that finish.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sure. Here we got the gentleman on boulder 2. What do we got? Tell us. Give us the breakdown.
Sure. So you can see Charlie Barron right there, kind of mimicking the start position. Again, totally valid within the rules. What the athletes will do is they will likely kind of step up and press into that right dual text hold. You can see the usable surface there. You can see, I believe that's Ben Hanna kind of pushing on that hold. So that's the position that will be in. He's mimicking it perfectly for us right now. At which point that he will then have to bring up his right foot and then likely his left hand to match that hold, match the feet, establish control of the starting position, at which point that he can then move forward. And you'll kind of have this, we've kind of dubbed it this little crab walk, where they have to kind of weight the left foot to shuffle the right foot, and then move the weight back over the right foot to establish, shuffle the left foot, and then kind of keep doing this back and forth until they get to a point where they're on the far left side of that canoe-shaped volume. Those are level volumes by Mike Bacchino. And you'll end up pressing there into that side wall where you can kind of see that very large black and white hold with some more of those canoe-shaped holds in red.
It's cool to see some of the volume walking versus the crab walk versus the run across. We saw it earlier, maybe it was women's 1, where there was a little bit of tenuous walking across that feature, and occasionally they would opt to just try to run through it, and it wasn't going to happen. It's not always the run and go, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hit it. It's a more slow it down, tiptoe your way across. Right,
and this is reminiscent of that. I think that it's not impossible, but it'd be extremely difficult to power your way or speed your way through that section. There's just not enough there really to support that movement.
Very cool. It looks like we sort of missed the boat on women's 2, but that's all right. We will see. We'll get the breakdown in the moment when it happens. This is men's 3 now, sizing up those start holds. Is it another techie one? Is it power tech?
Sure, yeah. So I'd say that this is just about the polar opposite of the previous boulder, whereas previously, of course, we were kind of doing this very delicate, technical shuffle. And now these boys, you can see, I believe that's Ben Hanna again on that start position. That left hand, he's on an element climbing dual text jug, left foot on that flat hold there. They'll easily establish that start position. You'll see no issues there whatsoever. And then
big old jug there.
It's a big old jug. Big old jug, big old stomp foot, and they're going to get themselves some and kind of hop, skip, jump, catch the far right. You can kind of see Charlie there.
Down
right
low.
Below Charlie, down low. Yep. So you'll see there's no holds at all in kind of in like the chest level where the ankle break is at all. It's all about the feet. And you could see kind of 2 options here. You could see the climbers kind of stall either right foot on the lowest, or the highest right foot there, and also grab with their right hand. You could also see a stutter step and then also a heel hook to stop the movement, at which point then they would then reach over, grab that blue tool dex, and achieve the zone.
Well, I suppose we'll have to see. We got 10 seconds. Ladies looking at an, to me, unreadable spattering of volumes. I'm certain that there's some method behind the madness.
Very technical.
We'll leave that one for a surprise as well. And I think that brings us to boulder number 4 for the men and women. Let's see where it takes us. Back to the steep wall.
Yep, back to the steep for men.
I do love the steep walls.
Yep, fairly common sort of paddle movement for at least the first half of the movement here. You can see Kai sizing up that start hold. We're using those cheetah ball volumes kind of in a stack formation, as well as the flat hold on it to kind of give ourselves that platform to launch. And then go to the next cheetah, a little bit larger, pretty juggy hold. That secondary, you can see it's blocked there by one of those Technic fatty long fat pinches, at which point likely you'll see them pull through over their head with their left hand and then catch that blue dual text volume that is currently zoned flip the right hand to an undercling, and then stomp kick their previous hold. There might be a possibility that you'll see some of the really strong athletes maybe be able to like one hand catch, hold the swing, and stomp back in on the start. We'll see.
We'll see.
Jury's out right now. We're kind of it's about a 50-50. And then they'll grab that crimp off a knee bar, match the upper flat hold, and have a pretty exciting finish.
All right, looking forward to that. Now the ladies on their last boulder problem.
More sports.
Indeed,
more sports action.
Indeed. What are we looking at?
Sure. So you have a left-hand start crimp on the volume there. You'll see Cece Coffin grabbing that. You cannot see it in this angle, and I don't even know if you zoomed in, you could see it, but there are a bunch of blocker holds stacked inside. So there's actually like really only 3 usable fingers at about a pad
on that
pad
start
depth,
hold.
on that left-hand start hold. So it's pretty bad, and that wall is fairly overhanging. I'd say roughly 30 degrees or so. They're in the Gaston. They're going to slowly creep, reach the right hand over to that blue pill volume, and then quickly snatch right hand, left hand, and then right hand over again to that cheetah to G2, at which point they will then...
sort of a dynamic 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it's like very slow all of a sudden, or rather it's very slow, and then all of a sudden you have to commit quickly. Very rapid hand movement. Timing is of the utmost essence to then pull through. That left hand is pretty good. It's actually a pretty solid jug, although it is very side pull.
Mm-hmm.
And the motion that these climbers are carrying, that you might see someone stop on it. It's possible. I'd say it's not as likely. They'll have to carry that motion through over, and you'll see that jib on that big blue to G2 right in the middle there. Mm-hmm. And then they'll be able to stop the movement through the opposition through there.
A few things that I could comment on. One, a sort of 1, 2, 3, so to speak, paddle dyno is something that we see fairly often in comps. I think is fun to watch. I would say it's really fun to watch. But the other thing that we see is certain times our stronger competitors will just stop in the middle of them, which winds up being maybe even more dazzling. At the World Cup, we saw that. There was 1, 2, 3 on black holds, and I can't be sure if it was a trick, if the setters, you take one look at it and you say, yeah, I've got to paddle through this 3 times. And maybe it was by design that you were only supposed to stop in the middle and not take it all the way to the finish. I don't know. It is certainly above my pay grade. But at any rate, all of those feats of strength, the paddle dynos or breaking the beta, both are crowd pleasers. And I'm excited to see what these people do.
Right, and I think it's that's actually nice that you brought up like this kind of phrase of like breaking the beta, and a lot of folks think that like, there's this like super hard intention behind every single movement, and I'd like to think that like, yes, we are very intentional when we root set, and we have a design in mind, and we have things that we'd like to see happen based on what we want to see tested in this environment, right? But that being said, sometimes these quote unquote like beta breaks and these feats of strength, they're maybe more impressive than we even thought possible. And they provide this opportunity for the climbers to really showcase their skill set in a way that we didn't anticipate, in the way the crowd didn't anticipate, and hell, maybe even the way they didn't anticipate.
Absolutely.
And that's what really creates this exciting environment for finals.
Yeah, with the beta, which when you're climbing outside, for instance, you approach a rock, you say, I want to get to the top of this thing. And it's up to you to interpret how you're going to do it. You're looking for every weakness in the rock, every little piece of everything. There's our setting crew hanging out there in the top of the screen, relaxing. You can see Nick Milburn. They just pointed him back our direction. He's going to join us here on the stream soon. But anyway, so climbers come up with different beta for difficult climbs outside, and that same thing happens inside where these incredible test pieces are set, and maybe there's an initial vision for how the beta is going to go, but ultimately it is equally inspiring and awesome to watch when a climber says, I see this in a different way. I can make this happen. I'm going to outright skip this hold or something. And it doesn't make it less or anywhere close. It winds up, it's just another testament to the ability and the vision of these climbers when they can show up to something like this and just say, I see another way. Here we have Nikaya Sanders. It looks like we're getting started for the ladies. For the final round, we're only taking it one climber at a time, so we're going to have all of our cameras, all of our focus on the action, and there will be no downtime. So Nikaya Sanders getting started on women's 1, and we'll see what she can do. Nikaya Sanders setting off here, tiptoeing her way across. Finds, I think, is that the zone, that black hold? I can't quite tell. Yes, goes for the mantle. That camera angle makes her look in danger of that fan, but I assure you she's not.
This mantle press is it's a tricky position to find for sure. You got to make sure that your heel is placed correctly. Oh! And you see her just peeling off, and that's so frustrating as an athlete,
so
right?
Slow.
You could see her, already understand that there's no way that she's going to stay on the wall. She kind of like kicks her head back in frustration and is just slowly falling off.
On the flash.
But she does flash to zone, which is huge. I mean, in finals especially, when there's only 6 athletes and in a limited amount of time, flashing to zone is a big deal.
Hopefully she can match that performance on attempt number 2, get this thing done, put her in a pretty excellent starting position, I think. Didn't seem like it cost her too much energy-wise as well. She's deciding not to rest super long. She's back in.
One really cool thing about Nikaya is that she actually, for those of you following along from semis earlier, she qualified semifinals in 19th place, which is just 2 out from not making it entirely. And here she is qualifying 6th place through semis and competing in finals.
There she is gathering her thoughts again. I was gathering my thoughts as well. I think that the mental game of athletes is quite incredible for you to have not a great round, barely sneak your way into semis in 19th place, keep your head together, and you wind up here. It just goes to show that, like, it ain't over until it's over, and you never know who's going to be there. Nikaya, there she goes, cleaning things up, taking home boulder number 1. Next out of the gate, we're going to have Quinn Mason, who is surely close by. Another thing I want to talk about this afternoon is this USA Climbing National Training Center itself. I talked to national team head coach Josh Larson, who explained to me a bit about the program and the facility here, and it is very cool. American competitive climbing seems to have been taken up a notch because of this facility and the program and the coaching of Josh and Meg, and we're going to get into that more briefly. But quickly, they have 2-a-days, 5 days a week, there's a real practice. They have team practice, which is really cool, and I think something a lot of people don't know about the national team, and I don't think that's something that was happening in the national team previously, but they can be very specific about what they're setting. They can work exactly with what each athlete needs to work on, and I think we're seeing the benefit of that clearly at the World Cup when we had 2 Americans win, which is kind of outlandish historically. So this National Training Center is very cool. The facility is awesome, and the program is awesome. The community and the vibe here that they're developing is something that is growing, and the American competitors are turning out to be contenders.
Right, and I think a big part of that is allocation of resources, right? I mean, so for any of you out there who are USA Climbing members, whether you're youth athletes or your route setting memberships or anywhere in between, a huge part of those funding, do go to this elite team and this elite level to help promote the sport in a way that we haven't really seen yet in American climbing. And it was really nice to see, as you mentioned, the past couple weekends where you have U.S. athletes on the podium in a very real way that we have not traditionally seen in the past. And resources are one thing. You also have the people involved, right? I mean, you have somebody like Mark Norman, who's the new CEO. And I mean, I say new as of the past 3 years. Previous to that, you had Keenan Wagner, who was a fantastic proponent of the sport and really set USA Climbing up to be where it is today for Mark to take over and help with his Olympic experience previously in U.S. speed skating. He has a lot of the networking and the connections and the know-how to really push this elite level forward. And then, you kind of go down from there and you have John Muse, Big Rig, for those of you who know him pretty well. Rig has been just absolutely invaluable in USA Climbing for, I'd say at least the better part of the last 15 years. I mean, anything that you know about USA Climbing has gone through Rig, has gone through John Muse. This guy is an absolute monster when it comes to work ethic and dedication to the athletes, to the sport, and he does it without any sort of, he is just the most humble guy you have ever met in your whole life. I mean, he's...
There she goes, Quinn Mason finding the zone.
Fantastic human, and we all of us who are sitting here right now watching from home, watching from the TC, owe a heck of a lot to John Muse.
Yeah, I've been working with John Muse for a few years now, and he's tough. He's tough as nails. He works hard. He works late. He works early. He works weekends.
The dude just works.
He does. It is. He's good. He's an impressive man. And a great boss, John, if you're listening. Quinn Mason here, trying to get established once again. Working those feet just a little bit, hop to that zone. Looking nice and careful to keep those feet from slipping with only 20 seconds left on the clock. Finds that zone in what may be her last chance to take this one home. Goes for the press. Now she's going to look for that left toe, heel. It looks like it may not be on there enough.
She needs to perch
Opts
a little
for the
bit
heel.
more.
Come on, Quinn. Time's going to get her.
Just not quite enough. She didn't leave enough room there for her heel. She needed to have her hands a bit more to the right to allow some purchase for that heel or toe or whatever she prefers, which would allow her then to balance and perch on that heel and allow herself to free up her hands to then move towards the top. Just out of sight.
Another instance where, can she do it? Of course she can. When you have seconds left and you put your left hand a half an inch too far in one direction, there's no room for the foot. It's over. That's the round. You didn't get it. The tone of competition climbing is like that all the time, where time is running out. You've made a tiny mistake. Of course you can do it, but it just wasn't in the cards. And they have to deal with that over and over and over again. Here we have Maddie Dennis getting started on her flash attempt. Looks like she leaned out a little bit too much before, maybe a little barn door before she tried to jump.
Yeah, she got a little excited, I think. Her feet weren't quite right. Her hips were a little bit off. And as she started to kind of pop out of that pistol squat, everything kind of shot out of the wall rather than up. And you really need to be locked into that position, ready to go straight up towards that blue pill dual text volume to succeed and hit that hold. It's not great. I mean, it's a pretty bad sloper. It does have some purchase to it, as long as, of course, you do get in that proper position.
It seems like a way that you bring out the skill in these athletes is, like you mentioned, they're trying to move up, straight up, not away from the wall, which is much more difficult to do when the holds are not in-cut. In-cut holds that you can get your fingers and your feet behind really help you stay close to the wall, but in the competition setting, it seems like a lot of the holds are big, they're rounded, they're blobby, and if you teeter backwards there's nothing to save you. There's nothing to pull you back in. If you lose the position, that's it. Here she is taking her time, looking to do that exact same thing, find the perfect position so that she can nail this small jump, even though it's not an incredible distance. Looks like she was checking out the top of that hold there with the one finger.
Just a little fun fact for you folks at home. Maddie Dennis, I believe she is the smallest, shortest athlete in finals. She's topping just about 5'2", and she is a fantastic athlete. Very young still, has a bright, bright future ahead of her. And just kind of a funny little juxtaposition, we have Kai Leitner, who's also in finals, qualified, I believe, fourth going into finals, third going into finals.
Right.
And stands at 6'4". So you have a...
It's no joke. 6'4" is a tall climber.
It's a very tall climber, yeah. So it's just cool to see, you know, just like different athletes, different body sizes, different body sizes. It doesn't really matter so much. I mean, you just have to, you got to practice, you have to try hard, you have to learn and be okay with the failure that will inevitably lead to success. And you can find yourself here on the final stage.
Of course. Yeah, it seems there is no perfect body type for climbing. You can be tall, you can be short, you could be, I mean, a little flexibility never hurts. But it's all to say that if you're dedicated, you practice, you work with your own body, you learn how it works, you learn what your own limitations are, what your own strengths are, you leverage those to make it happen. The climbers that make it into finals aren't perfect specimens by any means. Everyone has weaknesses, but they're simply dedicated, focused, and willing to play that long game and to stay in it year after year, work their way up, find themselves in a place like this. Cody, one day it could be me.
It sure could. It sure could. I mean, with climbers, we talk a lot about, there's so many aspects that can make you a better climber. You mentioned flexibility. Mobility is actually becoming increasingly important aspect of rock climbing. But here's the thing. I mean, power to weight ratio, that's like seemingly like a pretty common thing that people talk about. And it's a relatively simple ratio. I mean, as long as you're strong enough, you can offset whatever weight it is that you have. You don't have to be a very, very small, a very, very light individual to be successful at rock climbing. That body size thing, I mean, we see maybe a more common theme just because, rock climbing athletes, especially that we see in semis and finals, are training and training and training and training. They also eat typically really well. They eat healthy diets, and because they need to have the ability to recover between these hard sessions. But there's nothing saying that you can't be, a heavier climber and still have success.
I think the German climber Jan Hoyer is a great example of that. I mean, he is not a light individual. And here at home, we have bigger climbers that have done really well. Jimmy Webb, big guy. I'm not saying anything about you, Cody.
Yeah, old Jimbo, he's a big dude. I mean, he's probably one of the bigger guys that's been competing and climbing at his level for a very long time. He's tall, but he's not freakishly tall, right?
No.
And he's probably about 6 feet or so.
Yeah, I'd say so. Maybe 6'1".
He's an absolute bone crusher of a rock climber.
Yeah, for sure. Here we have Allison Vest looking to gain that zone once again. She's in position, nearly comes off, but does find it, goes for the mantle, fights her way up on top of this zone.
Foot skating all over that very small jib. You can probably see with her right foot, trying to press up on it.
There she is.
That jib, for you folks at home, is about the size, somewhere between a nickel and a quarter, and has about as much depth without the edge. So do that math, and you'll understand that you really need to push as much surface area of your climbing rubber and your climbing shoe on that hold to propel yourself upwards.
I think many of the climbers at home, I don't know, have never been put in a position to try to use feet that are that bad, especially while you say you have some in-cut decent hands and then they give you the small foot the size of a nickel that's with no edge. Yeah, if the hands are good, maybe we can manage. But in this case, you're dealing with a bunch of volumes, a bunch of slopers, so you have to stand on these feet. And to me, that's something that is particularly impressive and vexing about these climbers and what they can do with shoe rubber. It's certainly inspiring for me to continue to say the feet can be trusted more. You can stand on this, even when it seems like it certainly cannot be true. You come to an event like this and you find out what they're standing on. You say, oh, I mean, you can stand on virtually anything if you know how. Allison Vest, unfortunately, running out of time here. Looks like she's going to give it one more effort with 15 seconds to go. It seems like it is not going to be enough time. Already down to 5 seconds. Yeah, and she calls it as well. Excellent effort, however, for Allison Vest. That brings us halfway through boulder number 1. A few other quick notes on this National Training Center that we're sitting in right now. It's not tall enough to host an entire speed wall, but they do have a speed wall here. It's broken into 2 pieces. And they've done this so that they can practice individual moves, sequences, beta in isolation, which is very cool. When I first saw it, I said, what is this speed wall? It's 2 halves that are sitting next to one another. But they've really made the most of this space and are making it work and really producing these excellent athletes. Here we have Chloe Koskoy, another high-level national competitor. I see her at nationals all the time. She's incredibly strong. Very excited to see what she can do here.
Yeah, and so far for you folks following along at home, we have Nikaya Sanders sitting in first place, followed by Allison, who we just saw, followed by Quinn, and then Maddie. There are only 6 climbers in finals per gender. Let's see what we have here from Chloe.
I saw Chloe warming up on the other side of the wall, essentially. Her and Quinn Mason they appear weightless, the way they leap around from hold to hold, swinging, the way Chloe's just ripping muscle ups like it's nothing. And you see them on the wall. Goodness, these boulders are hard. These people are so incredibly strong. But these boulders, again, they emphasize the position over everything else. Speaking of the position, Chloe Cosgoy taking an unconventional approach here, going heel first. Looking forward to see if she can make it work. That is quite the heel hook. Looks like that's not going to be the way.
It's possible, of course, but it'd be very, very difficult. That said, Chloe might be pound for pound the strongest athlete out of these finals. You mentioned just doing sheer muscle ups or one arm pull ups or anything like. This girl has some raw power that, although right now might not be totally on display because of the nature of this rock climb, we'll certainly see a little bit later on here in the round.
Yeah, very much looking forward to that. Chloe now with 1.5 minutes left on the clock, taking a moment to rest, brush things up. I think she probably feels confident that she can gain that zone again. It's all about making it happen once she gets there. Maybe she's got room for 2 more attempts. Chloe Koskoy getting started again. Just under 45 seconds left in the clock. Just like we planned, she gains the zone, showing that muscle-up power a little bit. That heel looking pretty solid. Chloe Koskoy takes it home.
You'll notice the positioning of her heel different to, I believe it was Quinn a little bit earlier, who was having a little bit of trouble just providing herself with enough purchase. So it looks like here that Chloe was able to just shuffle enough over to the right, allow her left heel to purchase on the more usable surface of that climbing hold, that zone, which then pretty much when you saw her find that position, she popped right up into that top.
Over, yeah.
And look at Cece with this outfit. Man, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I saw her warming up as well. She was in the zone, headphones on. I wanted to compliment the outfit. It didn't seem like the time, but it is something else. It is quite cool. I imagine if I was in finals as well, I would search for the best outfit I could find. Why not? Add a little something to it.
Cece's another one of the athletes that does train here at the TC very regularly. No stranger to finals round competitions.
Cece Coffin now looking for the flash. I keep wanting to say this climber is really proficient on their feet, or this climber is really strong. And the reality is they're all quite proficient on their feet and quite strong. Cece showing both of those things right now, making it to the zone in the first attempt. Oh, and saves it.
Let's see if third time's a charm here. Looks like
yes,
it just
let's
might be.
See the foot. That looks fairly solid.
That's a flash.
Yeah. Excellent flash for Cece Kopp here.
Very impressive flash by Cece. For those of you not here in Salt Lake, if you hopped on over to your favorite weather app, you'd see that it is just right about 100 degrees. 100 degrees out here.
Bad time outside.
A lot of folks might say, oh, well, it's a dry heat, right? I'll tell you, we were just kind of putting these finals boulders back up and kind of tinkering a little bit, just making some adjustments on these finals boulders, and I'd say within about 6 minutes, we were all sweating profusely, which, might just be like, oh, wow, yeah, it's really hot. But in reality, the grip that you will have on these climbing holds reduces substantially with sweat on your hands, which is, of course, why we use chalk to dry them off. But, if the chalk is kind of wearing out here after just a few hand moves, and then you still have the rest of the top of the boulder to climb, you could find yourself in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, and there's an incredible amount of fans in this building right now. One of them, this is true, is like 10 feet tall by 10 feet wide. An insane-looking fan that I think has got water pumping through it as well.
Sure
to
does.
Add additional, yeah.
Sure does. Yeah, we keep filling it back up as much as we possibly can. It has a huge reservoir, and it actually drips water down over the intake, and just like really cools down this whole venue.
Yeah, it's pretty effective. It's really not that bad in here right now. It could be better, but it is not that bad.
We're also sitting here in a commentating booth.
Sure,
which
we're
not climbing on the wall
out there,
but
it's not exactly where I'd like to be. This is a fun-looking boulder here. A little bit more dynamic, much more steep. Nikaya Sanders, the first one to get started here on women's 2.
Yeah, we kind of sometimes make up, fun names for boulder problems or boulder moves, just kind of discuss amongst ourselves on the setting team. And Jeremy Harden was kind of the main proponent here in setting at least the skeleton for this boulder. I mean, we all have so much, big fall there by Nikaya. We all have so much input and discussion on all the boulder problems that go on any single round. Jeremy put up the bones of this thing, and what you'll end up seeing is, if Nikaya is able to swing on that on that little crimp, that kind of finger jug, she'll swing on over to a jib that you might just be able to make out in the center of that kind of long geometric volume there, and she'll actually kind of do what we've kind of dubbed like this koala climb. So she'll swing over, and there's no feet on the volume whatsoever, and you end up just kind of like bear hugging,
like
and
climbing
squeezing.
a tree.
Yeah, exactly.
There she goes. Let's see it.
She achieves this hold here and
finds that jib for the left foot, it looks like.
Lots of squeezing. Gets the zone.
And she's not standing on any jibs right now. That's just smearing.
Now, there is a jib about halfway up her right foot, did tack onto it.
Okay.
Yep.
Nikaya Sanders looking quite strong here. Deep lock off. Oh, Nikaya fights to the shoulders. Shoulders of steel. Not enough.
Now,
Hopefully
there is a
1
jib
minute.
on the left-hand side of that blue pill volume. You can see that where her handhold just was. It is fairly crimpy, but more open-handed. There's really no bite to it to speak of. So you're kind of achieving the position through, once you grab it, using your feet to pull yourself over while simultaneously pushing off your right hand to keep pushing yourself into the more usable surface of that crimp until you're on the other side of it and able to really utilize the whole thing.
I'm looking forward to seeing that in action. Hopefully Nikaya can get up there again. I'm not sure she can handle that shoulder move again, but then again, these are some very capable people. Looks like Nikaya's gonna run out of time, unfortunately. But you did gain the zone. And as you know, that matters. Here we got Quinn Mason getting started here. Oh, went to find a brush. And actually in just a moment, we have a competitor that's going to join us here in the booth, Nick Milburn. He's going to offer some insight into his view on competitive climbing, what semifinals was like, and just help us here in the booth to add a little bit more to it. Nicholas is quite serious himself, quite capable, so I'm looking forward to hearing what he thinks about these boulders as we continue to make our way through this comp.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. We got a little bit of a Chattanooga contingent back here, right? Between yourself, myself, Nick, and just have a little special guest appearance from one of my best buddies in the world, Isaac Caldiero, made his way in here. He might actually do a little bit of color commentary for us here, provide his perspective. Both from the climbing perspective, for those of you that know him, he is an exceptional rock climber, has made finals himself in numerous events, also great outdoor climber, developer. And for those of you that know him, maybe more in a Ninja Warrior competitive standpoint, he is the first ever American Ninja Warrior to succeed. So we can get a little bit of input from him here as well, hopefully in a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Quinn Mason looking strong, finding her way through in that same deep lock-off position that Nikaya found herself in previously. Turns things around.
And she's going to want to
looks like she's
grab her left hand here on that stacked volume. She's kind of eyeballing it here. She's going to need her left hand over there, at which point then she can step up
onto that left foot.
And that left foot that's just below the angle change.
She's looking for that. She's looking for a knee there, stacking the knees. I knew that she was looking for that. Looks like it's a little bit too far, though, even though she was close.
Just not quite the right position. Needs to pull up a little bit higher to achieve that left-hand undercling.
just under 2 minutes on the clock now. Hopefully Quinn Mason can rest up, find a top.
Just want to give a quick shout out here to all of our USA Climbing volunteers that have helped us out throughout the weekend here. We truly could not put on these events without the help of our volunteers. They put in a ton of time and effort, whether it's judging or ISO running or scoring. I mean, anything that you think of behind the scenes, a vast majority of it is put on by our USA Climbing volunteers. And we are very appreciative and thankful for their efforts throughout this event weekend. And for those of you who are just coming off a regionals weekend as well from somewhere out there, thank you very much for your volunteer efforts throughout that competition as well. It was definitely very appreciated.
The volunteership here at USA Climbing is always incredible. How many of them there are, how many hours they work, how many days in a row they work is always incredible, and you always see the same faces here at the events. Strong, capable, very capable people, organizationally and otherwise, that are here devoting their time. So, like Cody said, these volunteers are essential to everything that happens here. So I want to second that as well. Huge thanks to those volunteers. Quinn Mason getting up there again, but melts out with only 5 seconds on the clock. But just joining us now, we've got competitor Nick Milburn. He just sat down next to me. Nicholas, how you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty excited to come and commentate. This is a new thing for me, so behind the scenes a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Some insight.
We are excited to have you. What do you think of this boulder here?
It's crazy.
It looks very
when
cool.
you first look at it, you're like, what's going on? There's like a giant volume on a volume. There's triangles everywhere. It's proper confusing, which is, I don't know, pretty exciting when you first look at it. But as a competitor, it's like, what do you do? There's so many things. The giant hexagonal thing, like where do you grab it? Where do you stand? It's pretty intimidating. Even like disregarding how hard the actual movement is, it's difficult to figure out that movement in such a small window of time. 4 minutes, whenever you're in the thick of things, 4 minutes is not very much time. And also, on top of that, it is also difficult. So it's just really hard to do all of this.
Yeah, even if you were to read it perfectly, you still have to deal with doing it.
Yeah, even if you could look at all of this complicated volume stacked on each other and all the holds, and you were like, oh, I know what to do, it's still physically difficult. So it's like kind of full package boulder, really.
Yeah, in the semifinals round, we saw there was 5 minutes on the clock versus 4 minutes right now, and almost the entire time, the entire first minute was devoted just to looking at it. Here, maybe it's a little bit different because they have the preview. They get to come out and spend 2 minutes where they don't have to worry about climbing, to just think. From your perspective, how much does that preview affect the round? How much are you able to gain during that time? How much does it help?
The preview, I think the minute of preview, like of a designated preview time, counts for more than a minute of preview in a round, because even though the like absolute time is the same, whenever you're done with that minute preview period, you go back into isolation, you can think about it. You remember, all these athletes are very good at this. They remember the holds, the boulder, the orientation, and they can think about it and talk about it, picture it in their mind. So that minute becomes much longer than a minute in reality. They go back, they think about it, they contemplate. Maybe it's not as valuable as staring at the boulder the entire time, but it is much more valuable than one absolute minute. It's stretched out over the entire time they're in isolation. So yeah, it's very valuable.
Yeah, that's huge.
And then, I don't know, time's a funny thing. It really depends on like the perception of time more than the absolute time. So whenever you're in a competition and you're climbing, 4 minutes becomes nothing. It's a blink of an eye. But if you're like sitting, waiting for something, staring at a clock, sometimes 30 seconds can feel like it takes forever. But in these moments, these athletes, these 4 minutes are way too fast. It's not enough time. It's never enough time. So it's pretty fascinating to be actually in it and understand like what those 4 minutes truly are. It's a lot more difficult than it might appear at face value.
something I said to our audience during the semifinals round is I would urge people to go to their local gym, find a boulder, don't look at it in advance, set yourself a 4-minute timer, start it, turn around, and try to climb the boulder. And it is obnoxious, actually. It is not.
It's a really exciting exercise. Yeah,
frankly, unreasonable to try to deal with. And I don't mean that seriously. It just does. It really elevates things. You really get a strong sense of what it is like to be under the gun on that timer.
It makes a big difference, and it's surprising because, I don't know, let's say you're a V8 climber and you're like, I can climb V8. Yeah, I do V8s all the time. And then you try to do a V8 in 4 minutes. It's suddenly a lot harder, especially if you don't know the beta, if you don't know what to do, it's the first time you've seen it. The grade becomes less important.
Maddie Dennis here, not to interrupt, looking very strong.
She's
gaining some semblance of a high point, got eyes on the top. 20 seconds on the clock. Maddie Dennis gains the right heel, looks pretty stable.
Very good position here for this finish.
Looking for the match.
Beautiful.
Maddie Dennis, ladies and gentlemen, finds it. The first competitor take home boulder number 2. An excellent performance for Maddie here. Very excited to see what she does throughout the rest of the round, but that is certainly an excellent start.
A lot of the other competitors were kind of getting bogged down in between the two volumes, but the way she was on the left side of the main volume, compressing with both sides, that was more of what was intended, and it just set her up in a much better position to actually get to the finish hold.
Looks like we're going to have a replay. Yeah, as soon as she gained, she did not hesitate to gain the left side of that volume there, and once she got into this drop knee position, it looks like she's not going anywhere. Changed things up, opts for the heel, and it was clear that she had it from here.
Yeah, it's hard to see in the video, but there is a hold screwed onto the side of the volume where her foot is, and she could really stabilize. When she put her foot on that, she could kind of lock her body in and become stable and felt more comfortable to progress on.
Very cool to see from Maddie Dennis. Next out, we've got Allison Vest representing Canada.
For anybody at home, it might be a little confusing from the video, but the red volume actually also has 2 starting tapes on it, so that's why it starts on the volume and the black volume also, so both of those are the starting position holds. There is tape, just hard to see.
Under that red volume at the bottom of the...
Yeah.
I see. Allison Vest gaining the zone. Now this short climb up this long volume here is something the setters deem the koala climb because you're kind of shimmying your way up it and there's no... I think maybe there's 1 or 2 jibs on it. For the most part, you got to climb it without feet. But doesn't seem to be a problem for Allison Vest. Hopefully she can gain the left side here.
She's moving through it quite quickly, very efficiently.
Looks like she was thinking about that knee for a second as well, which we saw an earlier competitor try to do. But yes, she turns it around, gains a different knee, and is looking quite steady.
Very incredible flash go. She's trying to figure out how to lock her body in.
Oh, excellent use of the left hip there.
Kind of a fascinating she did there. She kind of, I don't know if everybody else noticed this, she tried a lot of different positions on the climb, especially in the top. She didn't know exactly what to do, or it seemed like she didn't know exactly what to do, so she was discovering on the wall. She tried a lot of different things. First, in between these 2 volumes at the top, she tried to squeeze her body, find some knee bars in between. It didn't feel very good, so then she rotated, and right here she actually cams the back of her thigh to stabilize herself and lock herself in between the volumes like she was climbing like a chimney maybe.
Great solution there by Allison Vest.
So, yes.
Next out we got Cosgoy. Looks like a few of the bottom of our letters get chopped off here on the stream, but it is Cosgoy. In case you don't know her, I'm sure at home, you watch climbing competitions, you already know who Cosgoy is. Cosgoy looking for the flash as well. Let's see what she does. Checking the score very briefly. The the moment, Allison Vest sitting in first with that flash of boulder 2. I'm sure some of our other competitors would love to change that, so we will see what happens.
It's a pretty unusual bit of climbing on that stalactite. It's hard to get that kind of three-dimensional feature climbing in a gym because not often do you have a shape like that. It's gigantic, protruding, and it just yields very unique climbing. And even these athletes who train on this kind of stuff don't often get something quite like that.
Yeah, to your point, here at the training center, I guess in many competition environments, even if it is at a normal commercial gym, things are a little bit different. They clear the wall and they can put whatever size volumes they want on the wall. But the neat thing about our athletes being able to train here at the training center is that this room they're in right now is designated only for this purpose. So year-round, head coach Josh Larson can put whatever he wants on the wall. He's not concerned with, is it going to impede some other climb? Is it going to get in the way? He can really be as outrageous and crazy as he wants with the setting, which I think is really starting to show in the capabilities of our competitors who get to climb in whatever style Josh Larson can come up with to challenge these folks. Chloe looking quite strong here. Looks like she sinks the knee bar early, doesn't even have to spin around, moving through quite efficiently here.
And she climbed that very smoothly there. She knew exactly what to do to slot her body into those volumes so she could stabilize to match the finish. Very impressive.
Yeah, it seems she had that idea going into it. That was not an on-the-fly
It
situation.
Very well executed.
Here we go again. With no hesitation, Chloe gets the left knee bar, points that knee way towards the sky. Easy match, easy crunch up to that left hand, and then it's just a matter of locking that hip in. Cool boulder here. Excellent work by Chloe. Next out of the gate, Cece Coffin. Cece taking her time, always so composed. Cece does seem to have a very strong ability to keep it cool. Whether she's doing well, whether she's doing bad, I think it matters more when you're doing bad or doing poorly. That Cece continues smiling, stays focused, and focuses on what she needs to be doing.
Even just there, she looked like she was about to pull onto the wall, but then she actually did not. She thought about it, and then she did not try to establish. She let go, walked over, grabbed a brush. She decided those start holds were not clean enough. She wanted a better chance to do the first move. She didn't want to slip off or anything unnecessary. So she decided, I'll wait a moment. I'll go grab a brush. I'll clean these holds, make sure I have my best chance, and then go. And didn't get caught up in the moment. She realized what needed to be done and did that.
With these moments are almost imperceptible, but they really show a really high presence of mind so you're already on the 4-minute clock. There's no time to waste. You go to pull on for your first attempt, and you have the presence of mind to say, hang on a second, slow it down. I'm going to make sure I'm paying attention, give these things a brush first. It's not just their physical or climbing ability that separates them. They're very focused people. Cece, look at,
Very close. Just a slight slip there, I think.
Bit of a heartbreaker for Cece Coffin. But with 2 minutes left in the clock, Still plenty of time to make it happen, and ultimately still plenty of time in the round.
And for the idea of like being aware of surroundings and environments, there's a lot of very small, subtle things which for some people don't seem to matter. Some people matter more. Like she's brushing more, she's taking care. She knows what she likes and what she wants. She knows that if these holds are dirty, I would like them to be clean. I don't want to slip on old chalk or old shoe rubber left on the holds. I want the best possible chance. And also, especially right now, she's probably tired. I mean, I'm sure she's tired. She just tried really hard, and she has to rest anyway. So while she's in that rest period, I'm going to do as much as I can. I'm going to clean the holds. And in this moment, she's shaking her hands around. It might look a little silly, but it does a lot. It creates more airflow between her fingers, drying out sweat, and creates a much higher friction between her body and the wall. And it makes a very large difference. Fans do kind of a similar thing, and there is a fan in the gym, which helps a lot, but getting as much as possible, it really helps.
Looks like Cece may be quite tired here with now only 30 seconds on the clock. I think that was quite a ferocious attempt that she made on her previous high point. I don't know if you can hear it at home, but it is a bit of her trademark to talk to herself as she goes. She said, "Come on, Cece, let's go." And that sort of positive attitude in sort of reeling herself in these heated moments is something that I've always really admired. Unfortunately, Cece not able to find her way to the top on this one, but we will certainly be rooting for her throughout the rest of the round.
A very good flash go nonetheless.
And that does it for boulder number 2. Last of the action, which I'm a little sad about because I really like this boulder. But more to come. Next out on boulder number 3 is going to be Nikaya Sanders up again. I'm checking the scoreboard again here on my phone. Maybe we can get the score up on screen just for our viewers at home. Chloe Koskoy now. It's possible one of these, either my phone is incorrect or the score we saw on the screen is incorrect. I think I've got it right here on my phone in that Chloe Koskoy. Yes, there it is, sitting in first place. That's what I was looking for. Chloe Koskoy with 2 tops there, as you can see, holding that lead for now. Nikaya Sanders getting started.
This boulder, another technical slab boulder, but also still very powerful. These holds are large, very large and slopers, but it takes a great degree of power, but also technical understanding of how to move your body around.
Nikaya Sanders looking so strong, flashing boulder number 3.
With the flash.
Really excellent climbing by Nikaya today. It looks like it's turning out to be a fantastic competition. All 6 of these women are extremely capable and certainly want that gold medal. It's flying by, Nikaya making quick work.
She seemed in her element there for sure.
Absolute powerhouse here. So much confidence there. Easy match for Nikaya. Excellent work.
I think something nice the setters did with this is the first boulder was a very technical slab, very balancy. The second boulder was a very powerful, steep, lots of full body action. And then this boulder again is more of a vertical wall. It's still powerful, but not to the same degree. So the athletes are using kind of different muscle groups. They're not tiring out one set and then moving on to a different slab or a different type of climbing. They're kind of jumping back and forth so they can rest certain muscles, then go back to other muscles and create a more well-balanced competition and give the athletes a greater chance to show what they're worth.
Absolutely. It seems like they do a great job of switching things up You get the hyper-technical volume walking super slabs, you get the power slabs, you get the steep. And that's cool. If the goal is to separate climbers, it makes sense that the setting squad would set in such a way that they are demanding excellence from climbers in virtually every style. So it pays to not really have a best style, but to be at least, I mean, quite good in every style so that you can, that's what's going to win you a competition. Here, Quinn Mason looking strong as well.
These holds may be big, but they are not good.
That's something Cody and I talked about extensively this morning, is that you can't tell how bad they are on the stream. And even in person, if you, I mean, you have to touch them to say, oh, wow, this is trash.
And even a little bit of like the positioning, you could maybe take those same holds and put them in a different orientation, much more comfortable, maybe like put all the holds in the perfect spot, and maybe they do feel like jugs. But the setters really know what they're doing. They're very good at their jobs, and they position the boulders so that, or they position all the holds so that not only, or like, it's not just about crimping really hard or pinching really hard, but also body position, understanding where your hips are, how to move your body up the wall. And it's pretty fascinating to set such a difficult technical boulder with, I mean, they're big holds, but they're not good holds. I said that a moment ago.
Big difference. Quinn barely finding that high left hand, but barely is enough as she makes her way up. Quinn carefully working the feet, gains the foot on top of that zone hold. A quick chalk, and hopefully she can take this one to the top. Quinn Mason looking steady.
Very strong shoulder there. Beautiful match. There's an interesting subtle thing with boulders like these. In this moment, she's chalking up. And it might seem like, oh, it's comfortable. It's not that bad. You can chalk up in that moment. And maybe in that very specific position, it doesn't feel so hard. But moving between these positions, it's very physical. Like right here, that is a lot of shoulder she's using. It is not an easy boulder, but there might be subtle spots in the boulder where the athletes realize, oh, I don't need to try the hardest I need to try. In this moment, I can relax. However, in the next moment, I need to try hard. And she did a very good job of that balance.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few times this morning we saw climbers, you can stay where you are sometimes all day in rest, but the goal ultimately is not to stay exactly where you are. The goal is to move to the next position. So just because you can hang out and chalk at a given moment, you're chilling right now, in just a moment, you certainly will not be. And you see them hanging out a lot of the times, thinking, knowing things are about to turn up. I need to rest, and it is cool to see them rest on the wall sometimes, composing themselves, getting ready. And also, interesting to see how the clock plays into that. Because, say you do take your time thinking about it, composing yourself, resting up on the wall, the clock don't care. The clock is still running, and if you don't make it your way through, you're gonna have to pay for that later. Maddie Dennis, looks like she's got a mono for the left hand. Oh.
She is climbing this very interesting, very uniquely. I'm not entirely sure what's on the top of the volume, but I'm pretty sure she just monoed a bolt hole in the volume, and then pulled off it, which is
Yeah, would
both
love to see
disgusting
that
and
again.
impressive. Look at that.
There we go. Not a problem. She should go to lander after this competition. That is
Wow.
very cool.
The volumes in bolt holes are on. However, most people prefer not to use them because it's quite frankly disgusting. It's also incredible and impressive. Most comp climbers aren't pocket fiends, but apparently she is. That was really impressive and incredibly creative. Like, it was an option for everybody, but not everybody else thought about it. Not everyone else wanted to do it, but it was always there.
It's very cool. I've commentated for Maddie Dennis on quite a few occasions, and I would characterize her as a creative climber, as well as many other things. Obviously talented, capable, but she can think outside of the box in the heat of the moment, which is something that's always very cool to watch. We'll see here what Allison Vest does. I'll bet you $1 we don't see any more monos.
I won't take you up on that. I feel confident there will be no
All right,
more
we're in
monos.
agreement.
Yep.
We're in agreement. I'll find somebody else to take my bet.
It's always exciting to see, though. I like pockets, so I'm excited to see someone. Ooh, a little slip there.
You know, I've become kind of fond of monos myself recently, spending time in lander. It's sort of forced on you, but yeah, it's kind of cool. Very cool to see it in competition here.
Moments like these, it's kind of interesting to note Allison is an incredible climber. She's very, very good at this. She made finals, and that's no small feat, and she had a very hard time establishing on that start the first couple goes. She did figure it out, though, and moved on and didn't let it get in her head and just kept trying and figured it out.
And as we can see, it looks like it's going to pay off. Nice finish for Allison Vest. It's interesting that in a different setting, commonly outside and very commonly in the gym, establishing is not that difficult. But in a competition setting like this, there are no rules whatsoever that say it's got to be easy to establish onto the start holds. And on a few occasions, I've had the opportunity to go try to establish on certain boulders after the competition is over, and, well, I couldn't, which seems obvious that I would not be able to. But I mean, I think in my head a little bit the expectation is maybe I could at least pull onto this. Why are these climbers having such a hard time pulling on? And then you go see what they're dealing with, and it is, I don't know how to say it. It's
hard to truly understand how difficult is something from a video, especially when you're watching some of the best athletes in the country. You're like, oh yeah, look, it's a bunch of squares on the wall. I just watched a bunch of people do it. Oh, this boulder's not that hard. But really think more universally. Like, these are very hard boulders, and you're watching incredible athletes on them, so they don't always make it look hard because they're some of the best in the world. But on a more global spectrum compared to all boulders everywhere, these are very hard boulders. These people train for these moments. They work very hard at it. There's a lot of technique and a lot of strength involved, and they're really good at it. Even if you watch, like, I don't know, videos of Adam Ondra on a hard rock climb, you're like, wow, that's a hard rock climb. It's Adam Ondra. I can't believe it. But it's really hard to truly understand how difficult something
Chloe
is.
Koskoy. These ladies are making quick work of boulder 3 here.
That was very quick there. That was really impressive.
Here she goes in the instant replay. Little foot slip. Doesn't slow her down for a second. Finds a match.
Incredible mobility in her hips there to get her foot that high and rock over on it. That's no small feat.
To elaborate briefly on your point earlier about how capable these climbers are, 5 out of 6 of these climbers train here at the at the National Training Center on a weekly basis. And I was speaking to head coach Josh Larson earlier today, and he told me, and this is new for me, I'm sure that it's new news for many people at home that they're doing 2-a-days. They have 5 practices a week. No, they practice 5 days a week, twice a day. And so not all the athletes are coming to all of those, but they're going to a lot of them. And it's cool to see, one, that climbing is getting to a point where there's enough structure and organization where the training load is similar to the training load that you would see in a more mainstream sport like football, where 2-a-days are common. But that there's the leadership, the funding, the facility to support all of these things, and that is all to say this is the reason these athletes come here. They make things look so easy. Yeah, they do 2-a-days 5 days a week. So for people at home, there's your ticket. 2-a-days with guidance, under the guidance of a smart coach like Josh.
It's a pretty big difference of something that didn't really exist before. Is historically most of the top end athletes kind of trained by themselves or maybe with friends, but not very structured. They did everything on their own. They funded their own way. They worked with sponsors, but now there's much more kind of a team unity. Even though climbing is an individual sport, it's just you on the wall, but in training and in mental preparation and how you get to do these boulders is much more of a teamwork, team effort, and it's definitely, I think there's a lot of athletes who have really come into their element since that transition has happened, and it's exciting to see.
Very cool to see. Cece was slipping off of those feet, and there was a brief shot where from the side I could see how bad that second volume was, that smaller volume on the sort of left side that they're using as a foot. Like most of the volumes in these competitions, you can see it there. That's worse than the volume you see in the gym. In many gyms, they set this comp style, but it is not the same. Cece working hard here. I know that she wants this one. Controlling the zone. Finds that match in the high foot, showing off her mobility as well. Looks like she might be out of the water here. We're certainly hoping so. There we go, Cece Coffin. Chloe Koskoy is still sitting firmly in first place. We'll see what happens on boulder number 4. Cece Coffin again. Quick replay. And a quick look at the judges just for confirmation before you drop down. Nikaya Sanders here getting started on boulder number 4, the last one of the ladies' finals.
Just taking a moment to really understand where all the holds are, make sure she knows the beta. Really, she wants to just give one try where she gets to the top.
Of course, because you're not just trying to do the boulder, you're trying to win the competition in that first try. I mean, they certainly all have their eyes on the prize, so to speak. And so they're not wasting attempts.
In this boulder especially, the first several moves kind of all happen in the blink of an eye. So these kind of coordination, quick movement things, you really want to understand where everything's positioned before you even try, because you don't have enough time to figure it out while trying. You need to figure it out immediately. You need to figure it out as fast as possible. So taking that extra moment to look where things are and kind of set all the boulders, all the holds in space in your mind so that your body knows where everything is before you even try it.
This one looks particularly vexing for Nikaya. Excited to see if she finds her way through here. It should be quite exciting to watch if she does.
A lot of things happening all at once. She's got to find the exact body position and then jump, catch 2 holds at once, and then it seems like continue on to the large blue teardrop shaped thing, all in the same moment. It's I don't know. I at least find that particularly difficulty, but maybe that's because that's a weakness of mine. So
The old paddle dyno.
the old paddle dyno gets
Not
me,
your favorite.
Gets me every time. I think they're a wonderful thing in theory, in concept, not in practice. No, they are very cool. I'm just not very good at them.
I know a place where you can learn.
Maybe I should.
I'll make some calls. Maybe
I
We'll
should
see.
hit that up.
For now, Nikaya Sanders still in the fight. About 1 minute and 45 seconds left on the clock. Plenty of time. Hopefully the first time she makes her way through to that large blue volume or hold on the left side, that will be enough for her to take it to the top. Oh!
She was trying to just control the position there, and it seemed like it is possible.
It
Certainly
seemed
hard,
like
but
it.
her body did like pause. It stopped for a moment. Her bottom half kept going and carried her on off the hold, but it was close.
Very exciting here. Oh, it would not be the first time that we've seen a climber in competition just control and hang something with one hand that they're supposed to be using as an intermediate paddle dyno. So,
and just to be clear, the large blue teardrop volume, which I don't know the name of, that is the zone hold. So that's the first scored hold of the boulder. Oh, incredible.
Oh,
Very
Nikaya
nice.
looking quite strong there. Gains
Perfect
the
form
zone.
there.
Very good.
Not a lot of time on the clock, but she knows what to do.
Oh, small
Not
hold.
a good hold. That is a small hold. Incredible.
Oh, Nikaya Sanders climbing so well today. Excellent performance by Nikaya.
Very confident. No hesitation in that last move. She got the crimp pulled up and just jumped.
Very cool.
No
Would love
doubt
to see
there.
that again. The way she locked down that left-hand crimp was very cool. Excellent show by Nikaya. There we go. Let's see it again. You can see that little crimp. It's a rare moment when you have a close-up of one of these holds here.
And even at first, she did not have that very well. It looked like she overshot it, and when she slipped down, it didn't seem like she had it as good as possible, but it didn't matter. She was confident.
And leaps. What a bone crusher. Nikaya doing so well here. Next up, we've got Quinn Mason. Checking my scoreboard briefly here. That looked like 7 attempts for Nikaya Sanders. You can see there in the top right corner of that scorecard, those little green boxes. Inside the green box is the number. That's the amount of attempts that it took to get there. To the right of those green boxes, you can see the tops and the zones in total in the attempts that were associated with those tops and zones. So can be a little bit weird of a format to get used to the scoring, but if you're used to watching these competitions, you do know how it breaks down. Nikaya sitting in first place right now because the rest of the competitors haven't had a chance to go yet, but we will see how it shakes out in the end.
Moves like this, I've always talked about this before, but at first maybe it looks like kind of a gimmick, like you jump and swing and try to hold on to things, but there's kind of like still you have to be very strong. There's like a prerequisite of strength for sure, and it's very high, but also then you have to understand the movement. Ooh, actually that was pretty incredible.
Yeah, Quinn taking a different approach here. It looks like it's going to work out for her. If only she could have come up with it first try. Now it looks like she's got that small crimp with the right hand. I'm curious to see how she handles this now. This looks like it could be an issue.
It looks easier to get with the right hand, but then it really makes this next bit harder.
I'm curious if she'll find a way through still, or maybe she can back up. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a way past unless she turns it around and gets out with her left hand, but We will see. Another great moment where she ain't too stressed right now.
Wow.
Wow.
That was incredible. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. That's quite remarkable, actually.
Okay.
I didn't think there was a rest quite like that anywhere on this boulder. But she found it.
Very cool.
She seems very composed. Perhaps a little confused, but oh.
No. Wow, it looked like such a great resting position, but perhaps there wasn't a way out of it. Who can say? 45 seconds to the clock now. Let her show us the way.
Sometimes it makes more sense to do something, even though the individual move might be harder, but the point is to get to the top of the boulder, not to make the move in front of you as easy as possible.
Yeah,
sometimes you have to do it the hard way to progress onward.
20 seconds now.
Hopefully she can move quickly.
I'm sure she's aware of that timer.
Very
Changing
strong
things
shoulders
up.
with that press.
Logging down that left hand. Looks like kind of a half crimp there. Oh, and she's going to run out of time, unfortunately.
She's still psyched.
Yeah, she considered going for it anyway. That's too bad for Quinn. Here she is in that previous attempt, taking the rest. Fully sits on top of that vertical volume and then casually switches hands to get her left.
Yeah, seems like a really nice position to be in, but unfortunately she's too locked into the volumes to actually jump.
Next out, we got Maddie Dennis here. Taking the same approach as Quinn did, which looks like a great approach. Really slowing things down. Maddie looking very strong in this flash attempt. Matching the small crimp. That is a no-joke match. Now she's got eyes on that finish hold.
She's in a very good position here.
Looking ready to leap. Let's go, Maddie. Not quite a leap. So casual for Maddie Dennis.
Very controlled. It was quite impressive, actually. She, at first glance, this boulder looks very dynamic, very powerful, and she was still very powerful, but did it much more slow and controlled. She found the beta that suited her body and her climbing style.
So close to the flash for Maddie. But that puts her in third place right now, so depending on what the rest of our competitors can do, we have 3 left. Allison Vest coming out right now. Could be a good situation for Maddie Dennis. We'll find out. Oh, Allison Vest looking strong as well on this first attempt.
With the dynamic beta, but still did it first try.
Very cool. Maybe a problem, though, coming in right hand. We'll see how she handles it. I'm curious if she's going to jump across her body or maybe looking for that match. Oh, a bit of a heartbreak for Allison Vest, and she knows it as she lays on that mat.
Impressive she was managed to match on that crimp at all, even just a little bit. It's
Certainly
not very big.
Having been exposed to a fair amount of these competitions at this point, I feel the stress of the hairline between making it onto the podium or not. Extremely gifted climbers, feeling confident on a flash burn, let's say, getting way up on a route, even gaining the finish hold, and you find some kind of slip or something. You feel the audience feels it when they're here. They're not right now, but the audience at home can feel it. I do, and certainly no one feels it the way that the competitors do.
even beyond, I think in the moment, a lot of competitors aren't necessarily worried about, like, did I make podium? Did that cost me podium? But in the very moment when they're on the wall, they're more like, oh, I didn't do the boulder. I can't believe I slipped. Why did I do that? I need to try harder. They're not so much, I mean, they're definitely worried about the podium, but in that split moment, they want to get to the top of the boulder, because that's kind of the point of climbing, really, is to get on top. Well, I would say the point of climbing is to have fun, but then after that, the point of climbing is maybe to get to the top of the boulders. And she grabbed the finish hold, but just couldn't quite squeeze it in. That's frustrating.
Yeah, competition, podium or not, when you gain the finish hold and slip, whether you're climbing at home, outside, at the gym, at a competition, that's a feeling every climber can relate to. And it bums you out, to be frank. Allison now with just about 1 minute on the clock. We are certainly rooting for her here in the booth. Let's see if she can take this one home. Committed to that right-hand method, which it does seem like she can make it work. She matched it the first time.
It seems definitely ideal to get your left hand on it as fast as possible, but she was so close to doing it her first try. Let's see if she can do it. Incredible.
Oh, Allison Vest barely controlling that
in the
finish
nick
hold.
of time, too. And
Dazzling performance there. Very cool to watch. That's the real deal try hard.
Here it is again. It was incredible she did it. Even though I think getting left hand on the crimp is more ideal, she got so close the first try, she kind of stuck with her beta because she knew she could do it. And there's not a whole lot of time to experiment with new body positions. And sometimes that can really hurt an athlete to get sucked into the wrong beta. But in this case, she made it work anyway. She knew she could do it, and she did it.
And it may have cost her a lot, but it is no matter because that's the last boulder of the round. So you no longer have to conserve anything to get through it. So you just leave it all out there. However you can get it done, get it done. And she did. Very cool. Chloe Cosgoy now. Oh,
incredible.
So many different betas we're seeing here. Chloe Koskoy looking super confident.
That was incredible coordination, especially for a flash try.
I got a good feeling about this one, Nick.
She looks very, very comfortable right now. She is incredible with the transition. She really understands climbing.
Yeah,
she's
no doubt
climbing
about
very
it.
Smoothly, very beautifully. She knew she needed her left hand. She figured it out.
Oh, my goodness, ladies and gentlemen. Chloe Koskoy, I believe, securing her position in first place there with another casual flash.
That was impressive on a lot of levels. The first, she was the only person to continue all the way to the bonus in one motion, which was impressive. That's a lot of coordination. And then at first she grabbed the crimp with her right hand, which seems like a difficult way, like maybe not ideal. But then she kind of knew she needed her other hand, so she just figured out how to switch it. And she even switched in a unique way. No other athlete did it that way, but it just looked natural.
No stress is the thing that stands out to me, is that she didn't slow down. She wasn't worried about it. She wasn't chicken winging. She wasn't stressed.
She was just climbing.
Doing her thing, climbing, really showing up today. Chloe Koskoy, if we can see that scoreboard again, you can see that she's had a truly fantastic round here. Now Cece Coffin, last female athlete here for the ladies' finals. So good. I do wish I could cheer her on the way that I'm used to. We'll have to settle for this. Cece Coffin still on the flash burn. Really hoping to see another flash here to see us home.
It looks like she knows she needs to get her left hand up there. Oh, doing a little transition.
Yep, decides to do it in advance instead of going up right hand first and then switching things around. Taking the same approach that Nikaya did. getting a quick rest. Come on, Cece.
Very nice.
Locks that
Good
left hand
recovery.
down.
Good
Now
press.
looking for that finish hold.
That's an incredible chalk
She's
up,
got
actually.
it 100%.
Wow.
Yes, Cece Coffin taking home
Wow.
the flash. Excellent performance by Cece.
We were talking earlier about being in comfortable positions and being able to chalk up. I would say that position was a very uncomfortable position to chalk up. Kind of impressive she did that at all. Right
yeah,
there. Look at that.
absolutely. Fingers
That
of
is
steel. I'm
fully
not sure
locked
that
off
that was,
on a crim.
well, I wouldn't say necessary, but who can say? It didn't matter one way or the other. Cece Coffin took it home with a flash, and it earned her a spot on the podium,
Incredible.
which is very cool. Ladies of the U.S. doing very well out here. I do look forward to seeing what they can do in the international stage. A few weekends ago, we saw a little bit of that with Brooke and Natalia really showing up, making their way onto the podium at Worlds. I think we're going to see more of that. I think the ladies that are here today are every bit as capable of the same thing. Very briefly, we're going to have the gentlemen coming out here. Just a quick run of our list again. It's Brian Squire, Ben Hanna, Zach Gala, Kai Leitner, Charlie Barron, and Ross Fulkerson are going to be our top 6 finalists. Quick pan of the room here. There's men's 1. Audio-visual team out there doing some work. Quick shout out to Smiley. I know he can hear me. Smiley and Sherman making things happen in the back. So for those of you who have not seen it, now you've seen it. The USA Climbing National Training Center.
And just part of it. Through that wall is even more training. There's some like
The most
Just a-
impressive spray wall I've ever seen. Very, very
it's
cool.
Very big, lots of holds, cool moves.
Just for our audience at home, we're actually going to do awards right now for the ladies, so y'all just sit tight for just a moment. We're going to present these winners before we move on to the gentlemen's round. We'll pick up the action from there, but for now, the awards, so y'all just sit tight for just a moment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for the people in-house and for the people at home, we're going to begin the awards ceremony for the 2021 USA Climbing North American Cup Series bouldering stop at the USA Climbing Training Center. Please welcome the women's medalists. Awards are going to be presented by the route setting team, Chief Route Setter Jeremy Harden, Jeremy Ho, Cody Grodsky, Enrico Bastracci, I know I got that wrong, someone wrote it weird, and Josh Larson. In third place, taking the bronze medal, let's hear it for Sienna Kopf. In second place, taking the silver medal, give it up for Allison Vest. And lastly, in first place, taking the gold medal and winning the 2021 USA Climbing North American Cup Series bouldering stop at the USA Climbing Training Center. Make some noise for Chloe Koskoy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for all of our competitors one more time. For those of you listening at home, thank you for joining us for the ladies round. Y'all sit tight, don't go anywhere. We're jumping right back into the action for the gentlemen. All right, I'm back in the booth now. You can see what I have to assume is beautiful Salt Lake City. And our scores from the finals round for the ladies. Chloe Koskoy, of course, finishing in first place. And I'd like to amend one of the setters' name. It's Enrico Bastracci, which I absolutely tanked that one. But you know what? Sometimes it's always chaos around here. Some things don't go perfectly well. So my apologies. But I'm glad for the opportunity to clean it up. So for our viewers at home, you can enjoy this fine view of the city and the mountains, or you can go get a sandwich. Whatever it is you do at home, do it now, because very soon the action will resume. So stay close. Keep that live stream on. We're jumping back to the action with the men's finals very shortly. We'll see you in a moment. Well, it looks like things have kicked off here. Brian Squire getting started in boulder number 1. Like I told you, it wouldn't be long till we were back in the action, and sure enough, here we are. Brian Squire with solid control of the zone. I believe still looking for that flash unless we came in a little bit late, but Brian looking very strong here, carefully navigating his way up that volume. Right now I've got Cody Grotsky here back in the booth with me. Nick Bilburn took a quick break. Cody's sitting here once again. He's one of our setters. Brian now with plenty of time on the clock, taking his time to brush things, work things out. As we already know at home, these things matter. You got to rest, you got to brush it up.
Yeah, Al, so folks at home might be wondering, what exactly are those triangles, those black tape triangles on the wall there? Oh, beautiful, beautiful
There
shot
we
from
go.
our
Camera
audio-visual team. Yep.
I'm
So-
wondering as well.
Yeah, so
Looks like tape.
yeah, so we kind of ran into like an interesting scenario here at the training center. The training center wasn't initially designed to host competition climbing, and as such, you know, we didn't really prepare for the event that you might be able to crimp behind those wall panels. As the panels kind of come together, they taper down and can kind of create, especially on a slabbier setting, kind of this usable surface that is actually pretty decent given the right body position. And so
Brian Squire there takes it home
Nice
on boulder
top.
1. But as you were saying,
yeah, we wanted to make sure, and you kind of have this like these rules scenarios where it honestly just made the most sense for us to tape off these sections of climbing wall, so that way the climbers couldn't use those seams and ultimately kind of cheat through the intended sequence and make the climb vastly easier by using those seams.
and the way the rules break down is they can use anything they can find for the most part, unless it's taped off. So if it's a feature of the wall, if it's not taped off, they are going to use it.
Right.
And that's why you've got to go to these extreme measures in this case to say, stay away and tape it off. Because I remember in some of our earlier rounds, climbers getting a hold of that seam.
Absolutely.
Here we got Ben Hanna.
It looks like we have Nick Milburn back here in the booth. Maybe we'll ping pong a little bit back and forth for a bit.
Of course.
You'll notice as well there is a bead of black tape on the right-hand side of the arete there. Anywhere where the wall terminates is technically off for the climbers. Sometimes it is good practice to demarcate that just to be sure, predominantly for the athletes.
And a little bit more on the black tape. In the semifinal round, actually, there was a volume on the wall that while I was climbing, I looked up and I saw the space in the volume. It's technically on. I checked with the judges. I grabbed it. It felt good. I pulled up, and it just changed the way the setters intended to boulder to go. And even while doing it, I felt a little dirty because really the point of climbing, or well, it's a bit personal, but you kind of want to climb things the way that they should be climbed to some degree, and it feels good and nice to do it this pure way. But also, it's a competition. You're trying to win, and if you see something that's allowed, that's in the rules as an option, it makes sense to do that. It makes it easier, so why would you not do it? And I don't know, it's kind of a fun ethical question. I like talking about it, certainly, and I felt a little dirty, but I did it anyway, and it worked. It helped a lot. It helped me get to the top of the boulder. But by taping off these things, it really eliminates that question. So you don't have to worry about, is someone going to use that? Are they going to think about it? Is some athlete going to think about it and another athlete not? It's just the boulder is what it is, and you have to climb it, and there's a lot less gray area, and that's kind of a nice plus.
And just for our folks at home, that's once again the voice of Nick Milburn, who is a competitor who is competing in semifinals this morning. So he can offer insight that is honestly that I cannot, because he's in that heated position having to deal with these things. But right now, Ben Hanna taking home boulder number 1. Not a flash, still making fairly quick work of it.
Ben Hanna's been in the competition scene for a long time, and he's been training especially for competitions lately, and it's really showing. He's climbing really, really well.
Next out is Zach Gala here. Zach grew up climbing in Atlanta at the Stone Summit Gym, where they've got an excellent program, produced many excellent athletes. They have a great team, and he might be their best. He's incredibly strong. I've seen him climbing around since he was very, very young, and he's now 21 years old, an absolute bone crusher. And I'm very excited to see what he can do with these boulders that we've presented for him today. Zach Gala looking pretty comfortable right now. There he goes, trusting that foot, standing it out, making quick work.
Very strong there. That was
1.
basically a pistol squat, except a little harder because it's on a vertical face instead of the ground.
Not the ground,
yes.
Of course.
It's important to have strong legs too, much to everyone's disappointment. It's not just about fingers.
Yeah, it's what they say, but then you're like, where's the proof? This is the proof. There you go. Pistol squat on a slab. Go home, try it. Next out, Kai Leitner. Coming into the finals round, seated in 3rd place.
He's looking very smooth through the bottom. He looked very at home.
Kai Leitner's hip flexibility is always something that really stands out to me. His active range of motion in the hip flexion, the ability to raise that knee up to an unbelievable level, which I think comes especially in handy for him, having quite long legs. Wow, really putting it to good use there. Another seemingly casual flash of Boulder 1. These gentlemen really tearing through this thing. There's only 2 left. Next out will be Charlie Barron, and after that, Ross Fulkerson. Here's Kai showing off that flexibility in the right hip.
It's always an interesting conversation is sometimes people look at Kai and they say like, oh, he's just really tall. It's easier for him. And sometimes, quite frankly, it is. But other times it's definitely not. Being really tall is just a different thing. You have to be able to move your body in different ways. And Kai's made a point. He knows that he needs to get into positions that are harder for him. He needs to be able to get his feet higher. So he has trained that specifically, and he's become very good at it. So while being tall is good sometimes, it's not all the time, but it's still something you can train and learn about. Same with being short. You can learn how to climb things short. And it's just something to work through, and athletes work through it, and then they understand and get better.
Charlie Barron now jumping into the action, hoping for a flash of his own. We'll see what he can do here. It's turning out to be quite a competitive field with multiple flashes of Boulder number 1. Looks like he's got to adjust that right foot a little bit, get it more on top. Seems like in the end, the placement of that right foot is what's going to put you in the position to either be able to do that essentially pistol squat in the end or not, if it's not firmly placed right on top of that black hold. Charlie now dealing with this difficult match.
Yeah, for the position on the volume, it's a little interesting. Since he's pressing with into the left volume, it kind of makes sense to put your foot on the left, or sorry, you're pressing on the right side of the volume. It kind of makes sense to put your left side on the volume so that you have like this better opposition. But later, you're going to change position. You're going to be on top of the volume, and you need to press up. So you kind of need to plan for the future. Maybe the ideal foot placement in the beginning is not the ideal foot placement in the future. So you need to think like, where does it need to be later in the boulder? It needs to be a little bit more on top. And maybe sometimes later in the boulder you'll be able to adjust, but I think in this case it's important to put it where it needs to be in the end, not where it feels most comfortable in the moment.
Yeah, in this case it seems like wherever that right foot goes initially is where it's going to stay. You don't have, that's where all your weight is. The hands are basically nothing, you have no left foot, so placing that right foot correctly right out of the gate seems crucial. Let's see if he does it this time. Minute and a half left to go. Plenty of time still. Taking a slightly different approach this time, opting not to have to deal with that match, but running into a different set of problems. Trying to get that right foot where his hand currently is. 1 minute now left on the clock. Places the foot totally blind. Seems fairly solid as he presses that out. Seems to have one hand in the finish. Looks like 2.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. He just put his heel on the hold instead of his toe, which sometimes it's just easier to get your body in that position. You don't need to be quite as mobile to slide your heel up there. You don't have to like articulate your hips in the same manner, and it worked out really well.
Yeah, certainly we saw that in women's 1 in the finals round. A similar sort of mantle move where they had to hand-foot match on this large black hold, not unlike the ones that we're seeing right now, and most of the competitors were opting to put the heel as opposed to the toe, which is a skill all on its own, to be able to stand on your heel as opposed to using it as a heel hook in a more conventional manner. Here we got Ross Fulkerson. First burn, first attempt, looking for that flash. We'll see if he can make it happen. Ross coming into the finals round seated in first place. Oh, taking the time to hop that foot up a little bit. That seems like that's going to pay off. Now Ross having to deal with this match. Manages to make it happen without too much stress and leans his way out to the right. Looks like that's going to be a flash for Ross Fulkerson. And that does it for boulder number 1. Quick replay. You see Ross here leaning his way out right. Pressing out that leg. In the casual match of the finish hold. And here's our women's score. If we switch that over to men's, we can see right now who is in first place at the moment. There it is for the gentlemen. Looks like 3 flashes of boulder number 1.
If I were to turn around and see this in a competition, I might just panic. I don't know. I'm pretty bad at this kind of thing. It's just
The score?
the start hold is very, very far away from the second hold, and there's no holds in between. You have to run across the volume. It's wild. I mean, for stuff like this, I said it before, I don't know, it's a slab. You just stand and run across. How hard can that be? It's very hard.
Now, this is a moment I like because you're a competitor. We've got a competitor sitting here. We've got a setter sitting here. And, of course, myself, neither one of those things. Cody might be able to give insight into this a little bit better than me. We've seen how Nick reads it, a competitor. You see these volumes, your assumption is that you have to run across it. I believe the setting team had something a little bit different in mind.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think the way that Nick read it is that can certainly go. You'd have to really keep your hips very close to the wall and place your feet very precisely to, I think, achieve that next volume stack. And then the kind of tricky thing about it would be you'd have to kind of control this rip around the corner, rip around that volume. Whereas, you know, when we were kind of forerunning and testing, we thought that it'd probably be a little bit easier to go really slow, very slow and controlled, and you kind of end up doing this this little bit of a crab shuffle, like I was mentioning a little bit earlier. Enrico came up with that term where you're kind of like, you know, you're waiting over your left foot and then shuffling that right foot across and then weighting the right foot and shuffling the left foot across, and you're kind of repeating this pattern over and over. It's very slow and very delicate, but it takes almost no power whatsoever. It's kind of this like just this walk almost, to at which point you can reach over and palm that black and white volume with your left hand, and then slowly but surely come across with the right, rip around to that volume stack, and then as you can kind of see right there, palm the left-hand side of that black volume. So both ways do go. It'll just be interesting to see which competitors choose which style that works best for them.
Yeah, I am very excited to see. It seems like the competitor's first assumption would be, as Brian's is right now, that this is a dynamic run across, because so commonly that is what they're faced with. So will any competitors decide to take it slower, go for the crab walk, and also how long will it take them to come up with that plan? Although Brian seems fairly close to making it work right now, but we'll have to find out.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. It'd be a pretty violent move to hold, although it'd be pretty spectacular to see. It'd be very show-stopping. You can just see how much momentum is being carried. You figure, you're carrying your distance, I don't know, roughly somewhere between like 10 and 12 feet, with your hips being about as far right as they possibly could get before you start running. And then all that inertia is carrying you through, and you have to stop with the opposition of that right-hand catch, left-hand palm.
Now Brian with only one shot left. Brian Squire not going to find the way through. Next out's going to be Ben Hanna.
Folks at home, maybe route setters at home, looking at this boulder problem, you might be wondering, like, what on earth is that black half moon doing underneath that red large volume? We kind of have dubbed them the canoes. Again, those are level climbing volumes by Mike Bacchino. And kind of what we did there is we shoved that black volume underneath the bottom part of the red to give it a little bit more elevation, a little bit more height away from the wall to allow the competitors' hips to be a little bit closer to the wall and allow the ability to do the shuffle or to do that faster movement. Either way, again, works. But without that kind of shim underneath, this boulder, I'd argue that it might not even be possible.
I see what you're talking about now. That black canoe or black volume on the bottom, it's not just below, it's shoved up underneath.
Correct.
Shimming that red one out, changing the angle of it to make it better, essentially.
Correct. Yep.
Not quite as vertical.
And there's a nice tight shot there. You can see both of those are kind of like half moon in shape, but you're kind of losing the top half of that black half moon because it is wedged underneath there. Ben Hanna opting for the snappier beta.
There we go.
If I was a betting man, I would. It's kind of what I would assume that Ben would do. He's very good at risky, dynamic, kind of more of that snappier style of climbing.
Speaking of, Ben Hanna takes it home.
Impressive feat of strength there by Ben.
But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is at least one way to get through boulder number 2. Ben Hanna leaping, taking the swing, dropping one hand at a time, just for a little style. We like that. That works.
I definitely hope to see somebody do the walk across. I find it really great that there's actually 2 ways to do it. I feel like kind of the thought of modern day comp climbing is like this jumpy run across thing. Like whenever I mentioned earlier, my first thought was grab the volume, run across, jump all wild. That's not even the way I prefer to rock climb personally. Like I would prefer to do the slow walk, but kind of
the crab walk.
The crab walk appeals to me more, but kind of the mindset for competition is jump and run, and sometimes that's just not the way things go. And in this case, it goes both ways, so it's kind of pretty awesome that that's possible. Zach Gala is also more of a jumpy snappy climber. He's really good at it. Although incredible.
Oh, so close to the flash. Kind of an in-between method there.
Yeah.
Slow start, quick finish. Looks like it'll work out for him.
It's kind of a fascinating thing, I think, whenever I see for the kind of the slow walk where he was just standing there, he was just standing. I think when people say that, it's kind of a big just. Like, just to stand on that volume is no small feat. That is an incredible feat of athleticism, and it might not look necessarily impressive because he's just standing there, but it's very, very difficult.
It's something I've thought about in my own training, is that it would benefit me to spend an entire day just trying to stand on that volume, and I bet it would take me all day, and I wonder if I would ever stand on it.
There's a lot of small things. I mean, you're not squeezing, right? It doesn't look
we
all
have
powerful,
the crab walk
but
here.
There's a lot of ankle flexibility, and you don't just become flexible in your ankles. Like, you have to train, but it's not just about bending your toes higher up, flexing your foot more. You still have to be strong. You can't just sit there limp and not engaging your muscles, but you still need to be very mobile. Very incredible there.
Zach Gala, so strong, really making quick work of boulder number 2. Excited we got to see the crab walk. I guess we've seen 3 ways: the full-on run across, something in between, and then Zach in the end deciding to slow it down completely, showing us the crab walk we wanted to see.
And then another small, I find fascinating thing about especially standing on volumes or low angles like this is climbing shoes become very specific, or I don't know, with anything you can like really get into the nuance of the equipment, and maybe if you're not an expert or competing or doing something at an incredibly high level, it might not matter. But sometimes for something like this, in an earlier round today, I put on my new shoes to prepare. I went up to the boulder. It felt really, really hard to stand on volumes. Then I grabbed my oldest pair of climbing shoes in my bag, and suddenly it felt much easier. And it's important to be aware of stuff like that. It's not like an accident or not an unfair advantage. You're just aware of the equipment and how it works and what works best for you. Sometimes tennis shoes work incredibly well for volumes.
And I thought it was kind of a nice thing that Kai was doing there. You maybe saw that he was pulling his mask up over his nose. It's one of those things the competitors of all the officials here have been so helpful and supportive of doing this event during a pandemic, and the athletes themselves. It's kind of a bit of a nuisance at best and a struggle at worst, having to climb with masks on at such a high level in 100-degree temperatures in this facility. But Kai just showing there, even in the middle of establishing on the boulder problem, that he's taking this seriously, and just kind of setting a really good example for any climbers at home, showing that even the nation's best, the North America's best, can still perform under these constraints.
Yeah, very cool. I have to agree. Obviously, the difficulties of managing events and gathering, even though we're at the tail end of a pandemic, it is something we still deal with and something we care about. And just for those of you at home, that was our guest setter or guest commentator from the setting crew, Cody Grodzki, chiming in with that note about Kai and the mask. A close up of that foot. Cody, is that a dual text foot, or does that have that grit on top?
The volume itself is it's not quite dual textured. It does have a bit of texture to it, but it's not quite the same as that 360 volume below there. That does have like full value texture.
It looks a little shiny.
It is a little bit. It's kind of like this medium, this halfway in between, which is it's kind of nice. It's something that the competitors I don't think are all that familiar with, and it provides a nice level of subtlety, I believe, to the climb. What you may see, you can see kind of Kai standing in a very specific spot with his right foot there. There is a little, very small, Technic tiptoe jib. There we go. Kai just launching himself across.
Kai now looking for that top. Leaps to the right, holds the swing, takes it home with 30 seconds left on the clock. Another great performance by Kai Leitner.
Yeah, so far we've seen any athlete who achieves the zone has been able to take it to the top, which is very impressive. You can see how violent that swing is out to the right. Great work there by Kai with just a few seconds left on the clock.
Now, I'd have to assume as well that this finish hold, it ain't no jug, as they say.
No, certainly not. So we're getting a little bit of a recap here from Zach Gala doing that little truffle shuffle crab walk, just showing that there are numerous ways to do this rock climb. You can see his feet just slowly skating. Has just enough pressure with the heels down to make that move possible.
Next out here, Boulder 2, we got Charlie Barron. Taking a quick brush, taking his time. Trying to make that first attempt count. You can see here at the moment, Zach Gala currently sitting in first. The scores, the placements can be a little bit misleading when not all of the competitors have had a chance yet to climb the boulders. For instance, when boulder number 3 comes around and the first competitor comes out, say they do it, that'll likely put that person automatically in first place when the other 5 competitors are likely going to come out there and have a chance to change that. But we will keep you in the know as we go along. What good is sports if you don't know what the score is?
One
That's
thing I
what
think
my grandma always used to say.
Is that what she said?
All the time.
One thing that I think is just kind of an interesting note for the folks at home, especially folks who've been following along with competitive climbing for a little while now, that you can kind of see right now the top 3 athletes. They all have tops. They've all completed both boulders so far. I mean, of course, there's 2 left to go. Anything can happen. And so some might say, well, I don't know, I'm seeing a lot of green boxes. Green box zone, green box top, a lot of tops. But the difference in between first and third place, although it's only 3 places, using men's 2 here as an example, is 3 attempts versus 8 attempts, which, and I'm sure Nick can chime in here in just a moment, the difference between doing something in 3 attempts versus 8 attempts is fairly vast and does truly show that person who is in first place had a much
climbed better that day.
Climbed better, yeah. Performed at a higher level, was able to read the climb and just do the right thing, the necessary thing to achieve the top.
There goes Charlie Barron. Speaking of tops, finds another one.
And Al, Nick, I think I'm going to step aside here and catch the rest of the round from the floor. But I really appreciate both y'all's time, and thank y'all for being here. And everyone at home, thanks for listening. And hope you all have a great evening.
Cody, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Definitely thanks for your setting input. It's always nice to see an expert talking about what he knows best.
Once again, that was Cody Grodzki joining us back here in the booth. Setter extraordinaire. Now we have a different extraordinaire. Will be sitting with us for the rest of the round, Nicholas Milburn.
Hopefully I can provide my in-depth, many years of competition experience behind what's going on.
How many years now?
21 years of competition.
How old are you?
26.
All right.
Well, I guess I took last year off, so maybe only 24.
Slacker. Turns out Nicholas is a slacker, and we didn't know it. Only 24 years. Or how many years of competing did you say?
My first competition was when I was 5 years old.
5 years old.
And I didn't ever stop until last year. I took a little break there.
Took one little break.
Everyone else, but.
Well, that's something else. That's for real. For real. I guess that's more. That didn't used to be commonplace for climbers to start at that age, and now the sport has grown, and it is. You come from an era, maybe there weren't a ton of climbers at that time starting when they're 5, and not only just starting climbing while they're 5, but competing for the first time, and now we see a lot more of that at the youth competitions all the way down to Youth D.
It's
serious.
It's really a fascinating thing. I was fortunate enough to come from a family of rock climbers, and at the time it wasn't very common to have like parents who also climbed, and now it's much more common, and it's really exciting to see. You go out to a crag and you see the whole family, or a gym, and the whole family's running around the boulder field having fun. It's really amazing. It's a wonderful wholesome activity that everyone can do, and now more and more people are doing it.
Yeah, it's very cool, and especially within this competitive arena, and even at the gym at home, in the climbing team at home in Chattanooga and Synergy, you see the kids will get into climbing first, and then it's unlike, let's say, the parents need to take the kids to a soccer game. All they can do is sit by on the sidelines and watch. But at the climbing gym, the parents get into climbing too. And in many cases, they wind up coming to events like this, and a lot of our volunteer staff are parents of high-level competitors. If the kids are already going to be at nationals, the parents wind up getting involved, working the event, and oftentimes climbing themselves. Climbing truly has grown in so many ways, not just in the funding that it sees and how many people that are in it, but it's a fun activity for the whole family.
It's pretty great. Even today, I mean, I haven't competed in a little bit, but I show up to a boulder, especially in the red point round or even the semifinals. I turn around, I see my judge, and I'm like, oh wow, look, I haven't seen you in years. How you been? And I'm like, can't really talk. I'm in the middle of a competition, but it's kind of nice to see all these friendly faces. Like, oh, I've known you for years. You're always here, and it's a really great thing. Good community.
Very cool. Ross Fulkerson here having a bit of trouble making his way across his volume. Now with under a minute left.
Sometimes it's easy to think a boulder's easy or not very hard because you see a bunch of these athletes do it.
Oh.
Ooh, that was a good slip there.
That's a good spill.
But Ross is an incredible athlete. He's very strong. He's competing very well, and he's having a hard time with this boulder. Not because he's a bad climber, but because it's a hard boulder. He's definitely not a bad climber.
So close there.
Very, very close.
Now only 20 seconds left to go.
Very
yes, he may have
nice.
enough time. He has gained the zone, which matters, but I think he's got enough time to take it all the way home. He skips the
Doesn't
left
even
hand.
need the hold. Full commitment, no hesitation. It's
Very
always
cool
incredible
by
to see
Ross.
an athlete do that.
I have to wonder if was that his plan the entire time, or did he know I have 3 seconds left? There's no thinking. I see the top. I can get there. Let's go. And that's all there is to it.
I definitely think it was more of the latter.
Yeah.
I think sometimes in competitions, when things are on the line, climbers climb in this more reserve, when there's more time, climbers climb a little bit more reserved. They try to do things as securely as possible. But whenever there's just 3 seconds left, everything's loose, no hesitation, full commitment. They just jump for it.
Very
and
cool.
that can really pay off. It's more risky, but it's also sometimes more natural and intuitive.
Here we got Brian Squire already getting started in Boulder 3.
Another boulder with a really big space between those holds.
Yes, not unlike our last one, but I was speaking to Cody earlier, and there will be no crab walking here. This is all about the what has now become conventional, to sort of run across the volumes and then tag that low right hand on the far right side, that yellow hold. So we'll see what Brian can do here.
Whenever I first looked at this boulder earlier today, I couldn't tell exactly what to do. I definitely knew you swing just like this, you run. It's hard to know, do you stop? It looks like maybe you actually just try to perch and stop on those volumes without grabbing anything. That lower volume has some chalk, it's turned sideways. That's a sign that probably you grab that volume somehow. Maybe you run across, bounce, and then you grab the volume and hold still. You just pause, kind of magical floating wizardry going on, and then you carry on to the boulder.
We'll see. We might see a little bit of both. We'll see if this is one of those boulders that has that variability in the beta on how you approach it, or is everyone going to do sort of the same deal, running across both of those yellow feet, winding up, sort of arresting that motion on that last yellow hold with the right hand. Something like that seems fairly promising. Brian might be on to something here. Very cool hop situation going on.
And the way when he grabs the start hold, he kind of kicks one foot, I think his left foot is on the starting hold, and then his other foot kind of kicks back and forth across his body.
Yeah, pressing on the wall on each side.
Pressing on the wall, yeah. And that's to kind of not only develop momentum, but also to understand, like, how does my body flow back and forth? Incredible.
Very cool
close.
method. It seems like if he tries to run across by matching feet, it pushes him off the wall the way he's got to turn his hip in. So he instead decides to just let the left one hang loose, hop on the right.
That's pretty cool.
It's really cool.
And to continue my thought earlier with the foot bouncing back and forth, it is doing both the job of developing the momentum to carry on to the next holds, but also it helps you know, how does my body feel on the wall? How do I develop? How do I angle my hips? How does my chest, is it parallel to the wall? Is it perpendicular to the wall? Is it something between? Now that he finally stuck that move, it's pretty incredible. He's moving forward.
Now, I did not have a chance to talk with Cody about the beta past this point, but that zone hold looks bad, very small. And I suppose what Brian just did is essentially what is going to be required. Now with only 15 seconds left, may not have enough time to see it happen. Looks like that'll be the round for Brian.
It's a little hard to tell from here, but I'm pretty sure the zone hold is actually ungrabbable. Maybe it's not quite what I think it is, but I think it's just a little bit to balance, but not enough to pull on. Yeah,
There we go.
That is not a real hold. That is a fake hold. It is an illusion of a hold.
Yeah, we've seen those holds in the gym plenty, and yeah, I don't know what to call them, but they are not very helpful, to say the least. Here we have Ben Hanna getting started in Boulder 1, sort of using that same method with the right foot, and I wonder if he's going to wind up doing the same sort of hop. Yes, there we go. Something that continues to impress me about these climbers is the speed at which they can work things out. He tries one way one time, next try, now he's already ran through 3 different methods. So they narrow things down very quickly, which obviously matters so much when he's already only with just over 3 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, the athletes and just the really human mind in general is incredible at taking all of this information. There's a lot of information. Holds, angles, how they're positioned, where is there shoe rubber on the hold, is there chalk on the hold, what's the angle of the wall, and they just process all of this at an incredible rate, and then they work through the beta before they even get on the wall, and then they narrow it down. Okay, I have some ideas. Maybe it's one of these things. I can't quite tell. They pull onto the wall. Before they even try to jump, they know, okay, now that I've pulled on the wall, I have a slightly better idea. I have more information. They try it once. How did that feel? Terrible? Good? Medium? I don't know. And then they just process through and figure it out, but at an incredibly high rate.
There he goes. Ben Hanna finds his way through, decides not to take the hop method, switches it up. It looks like there is a little jib on top of that yellow hold for the right foot, and doesn't even need the jump to find his way through. Ben Hanna now way up on Boulder 3. Eyes on that top, gains it with one hold. Looks like there's a small pocket on the inside. Works his feet and finds the match, Ben Hanna.
Very good. Once he stuck that the first run across there, he just knew what to do and did it very quickly. And the way he stood on that right foot there, it's a very high foot, so it takes a lot of hip mobility, but then there's some like faith, some trust, understanding of how his shoes work to be able to stand up, and then body positioning too. The left hold is not a jug, it's just flat, so you have to, when hit it, you can't just squeeze hard and hold it. You have to be in the right body position, lean into the foot, believe it's gonna stay, and then be strong enough in everything else to also actually execute.
Excellent climbing by Ben Hanna. Now we have Zach Gala out here giving it a quick brush, as we usually see.
I think brushing gets a little more important later in the competition as the athletes, stand on the holds, put chalk on the holds. And with only 6 athletes, it's not the end of the world, but it does make a difference.
Zach setting up for the first attempt.
One thing that's wonderful about climbing is it's not just about being strong, it's an incredible amount of skill that goes into it, which is why just hanging on a hangboard and lifting weights doesn't make a good climber. You have to go out and climb, and these athletes are exceptional skill athletes as well. They're all very, very strong, but they also put in great effort to understand movement, body positioning, awareness. It's pretty incredible to see in action.
Yeah, I think to the general public, the strength is a very visual difference between the general public and climbers at the highest level. You could see Zach do a one arm on a 10 mil edge, sure, but is that the thing that puts him in finals at a World Cup? No, it's just one small piece. That right there is the thing that puts him in a World Cup finals round, that ability to break down beta quickly and do It's just crazy movements.
In that small moment, I don't think he planned that like crazy foot switch there. He just intuitively figured it out in the smallest amount of time.
Zach Gala working things out, throws the left heel, gains the finish hole with one hand. Yep, that's a match for Zach. Takes home boulder number 2. 3 climbers now left here. I think I mistakenly called this boulder number 2. It is in fact 3. It's getting close. Next up, Kai Leitner. 4-minute clock, already counting down. Those seconds, they go by so fast. He hasn't even had time to put his towel down yet. But so calm, checking things out, putting the towel down.
Making sure those shoes are clean.
Yeah, bringing the towel out is something that we've seen a lot more of. Many competitors do it now. Those mats, they get super chalky. You lean on that mat for a second, you're covered in chalk. So keeping the shoes clean via the towel, it seems like it matters. I mean, everything matters, I suppose. Every little thing you can do. Let's go, Kai. Kai seemed fairly close to finding his way through, even moving quite slow.
I do think it's pretty amazing on how far. Oh, that was actually incredible. That's worth pausing about.
Now, I wonder if he'll stick with the method. Because you mentioned that earlier, that you were curious to see, does someone freeze in the middle, no hands, and manage to walk their way across?
He also very subtly, looks like he's not sticking with it. But in the previous go, there's that small seam in the wall, and it's just a small bevel in the plywood. It's not actually very good, but it can be somewhat useful. And it helped to pause a bit. But it looks like he's not sticking with it. I suspect in that case, because even though he could stand there and pause, it was really hard to continue on. It stopped his momentum, and it's a really bad foot, so it's hard to keep going. So he's opting to continue with the larger, to just keep running all the way.
Yeah, the foot match seemed like it was a lot to deal with, even if you do manage to stay on the wall and stop. Here he goes. Yes, leaving the hop method behind. Decides to take a more conventional run across them. Gains that zone hold. Worthless as it may be. Just using it for a little bit of balance as he leans his way across. Finds his way.
With the cross to the finish, this has not been seen yet.
I hope it works out if he decides to commit to it. Oh, Kai Leitner.
That was no small feat. That pocket is not that good, and also the rest of the hold is not textured. It's dual text, and he dynamically jumped into a terrible dual text sloper. If that was textured, I still think it would be a pretty bad sloper, but he did it anyway.
Very cool. Proof that these competitors all mean business, all are looking for that podium. Even if you get into a position and you know it's slightly wrong, but it's too late, you make it happen like Kai just did right there.
Trying hard is I think a particularly unique concept. Sometimes I give the advice to, or maybe I'm climbing with friends, I'm like, I think you just need to try harder. And that can kind of sound maybe like insulting, like try harder. Of course I'm trying hard. But trying hard, along with everything else these athletes are doing, is a skill. It is hard to try hard. You can't just think, I'm going to try hard now. And sometimes athletes have their own way of trying hard. Maybe they'll yell at themselves. Maybe they'll talk to themselves. Maybe they'll just like think like, oh, now's the time I try hard. They flip that switch. But these athletes practice trying hard. It sounds kind of weird and silly to say, but it's another thing that comes into this competition scene and just climbing in general.
Here we have Charlie Barron. It's been great so far to see all of the different foot variations that will work to get a climber from point A to point B in this case. And to see, I'm at this point curious, are there any more? We've got the hop, the more conventional run across. We had Kai Leitner briefly freeze without running across, even though he decided to not continue on with that method. It's another example of how the setters, they have a method, an idea of how this is going to go, but always they know. The climbers will find their own way. And we've seen that from the beginning of this competition all the way through until now.
I think sometimes for outside eyes, maybe other competitors in general in the audience, sometimes it's you look at a boulder and think like, why would the setters do that? Like, that's clearly a bad boulder. But it's very hard to do. There's a lot of factors. Like, sometimes the setters set a boulder and it seems really great and the athletes do it and it's fine, it's wonderful. Sometimes the setters set a boulder, they think it's great, and for some reason, maybe the athletes just don't see that beta that day. Maybe the athletes aren't quite on form. Maybe they get confused. There's just so many factors. Even the people who think about this stuff every moment of every day, like, they can't predict the outcome. There's just too many variables. And it's really difficult, and they do an incredible job.
Very nicely executed here by Charlie. Went with the hop method, but slight variation. Briefly switched his feet on the starting hold before taking off across the wall. Wound up working perfectly. Seems like most of our competitors that have made it to this point on the boulder do find a way through. Hopefully Charlie can do the same. Does things a little different, but it's not a problem. Finds that match, takes home another one.
Impressive ankle and hip mobility there. The way he points his heel straight down, or his toe straight down, perches well, locks his body in.
We saw Kai do it differently. We see Charlie do it differently. We saw the right heel for the match there. Pretty cool boulder in that way. Next out, our last climber on Boulder 3, Ross Fulkerson.
I believe a lot of these athletes have started kind of moving to Salt Lake, either just for long stretches of training or permanently relocating, and they're training in this training facility. So they're familiar with the walls, the style of setting that Josh Larson is putting up for these athletes is really helping them understand the competition style better, and athletes are getting more comfortable with it, and it really shows. The boulders, well, I haven't tried these specific boulders, but in semifinals at least, they were very hard. And I think these boulders look just as hard, and they're climbing really well.
I was speaking with Josh Larson briefly before finals. There Ross goes, really doing well. Not many attempts now. If he can take this one home, that's going to be very good for his scorecard at the end of the day.
With the double clutch there, that was impressive.
Ross looking confident here. Gains that finish hold, now looks for the match with the right heel. Not a problem. As I was saying, speaking with Josh Larson and commenting specifically on the wall angles here in the facility, there is a lot of low angle terrain. These slabs are off slab. And the reason for that is that historically American competitors, when put into the world scene, tend to not be as competitive in the low angle terrain. Essentially, as a nation of competitors, that's our weakness. And we tend to be strong in the steep terrain. We've seen that in the past with Daniel Woods, Alex Puccio, and then we can fall off when it comes to low angle stuff. So they've built intentionally a lot of low angle terrain here so that we can test and teach our athletes to be better in that style, which is really cool the way that's manifested in places like the World Cup. Now, this wall, of course, steep, just how I like them, but almost the entire rest of the facility that these competitors are climbing in is vert to slab to just off vert.
And I think part of that too is, well, it's maybe, I don't know, maybe a little more simple to train pinches and overhang or jumping. It's a little more obvious. You don't need as much terrain, but there is still skill in it, absolutely. But there's a little more skill involved in the running across wall, low angle thing. So it's a little more important to spend time learning the body positioning and the awareness. So kind of putting a larger percentage of that angle is particularly helpful. But now we're onto this steep, powerful, jumpy, double clutch. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, always fun to watch. Here we got Brian Squire looking to find his way through. Once again, I was speaking to Cody Grodzki earlier today. He said this one is fun to watch, so I am excited to see how it goes. Brian Squire finds his way through to trying multiple attempts now with a minute on the clock. Hopefully he can take it home right now. Tosses that knee in there, looking pretty secure. Oh, looks like that exit's no joke. It's not over there.
I think on the last boulder we saw maybe, I think every single person who got the zone hold also did the boulder maybe, or maybe that's not true. But regardless, I think this boulder looks like it has a very hard time to get to the zone and then another very hard time to get to the top.
Yeah, how do you read the exit?
Man, I've lost my comp game. When I look at that, I'm still confused. It looks like the hold after the zone looks kind of terrible. Maybe a Gaston. Some fancy drop knee stuff in there. That first red volume is big, slopey, and bad. So I think maybe you can go over, control it, and then kind of like, then after you control it, jump over to the finish, which the finish hold, it's still a big sloper, but there's a little bit of a lip. You can kind of see a white chalk spot. I wouldn't call it a jug, certainly, but there's more of a positive surface there.
We will just have to find out. Brian Squire calling it around.
We'll leave the beta finding to the true experts out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Next out's going to be Ben Hanna. As you can see on our scorecard, bottom left, Zach Gala doing quite well securing that first place position right now. These boulders have seen several tops. Most of our competitors have topped all of them, but it is coming down to attempts, with Zach Gala having significantly less than the competition so far.
Zach had a pretty incredible performance at the last World Cup. He made finals, and every single person who makes finals in the World Cup is a really top tier.
Yeah, absolutely. I think something quite drastic would have to happen on this last boulder of the day to unseat Zach from the first place position. But
it happens.
Drastic things do happen, so we'll have to see. Ben Hanna out here trying to take home boulder number 4.
There's a lot going on with this jump. Maybe you noticed when he pulled on, he didn't just pull onto the hold. He got kind of a toe hook and then a toe on top, bicycling the first foot. And the sloper, that start hold, it's not good. You can't just pull onto that. And the wall is so steep that it's really important to kind of like stabilize yourself. But that also makes this initial jump harder. It's harder to generate the height. It is a dyno, but I don't think it's so much the distance that makes it hard as the insecure starting position. Kind of those two things together make it hard. And then again, on top of that, when the camera angle's right, you can see on the right side of that first blue hold, there's another hold slotted in right there. That pinch there slots in. And the bottom part of that hold's pretty decent, actually. But since they blocked it off, you actually have to jump much higher. You can't just hit the bottom. You have to jump way high on that hold before you can carry on. So it's a fairly complicated move. I mean, they're all complicated moves, but this one's complicated and hard.
Yeah, you can see here that as soon as you start to generate up and right, you're flying away from the wall. As soon as you give up having the power in your feet, you're kind of shooting backwards. And it makes it real hard to generate there. Oh, he finds his way. Getting just high enough with that right hand to gain the jug. Slots that knee. Takes a quick moment to compose, and we'll see what he does now.
You can kind of see on the left side of his right hand, it's a little bit in-cut. The right side slopey. Overall, not great. Oh.
Okay.
That kind of looks like it. Maybe kind of this go dynamically, match, go into the Gaston, hold this iron cross, swing around. That's an exciting move.
It'll be quite the swing on that top if he can control it.
Moves
Here he
like
goes again.
There it
Very
is.
dynamic. 1-2. Doesn't really get any purchase on that left hand on the top, but
during semifinals, I was actually warming up with Ben Hanna, and we created a couple boulders together. Actually, I didn't. They showed me them. And the way you have to generate the momentum to swing, it's very specific the way your hips need to move, and you kind of have to do that in the beginning. In fact, sometimes the second you start moving, you realize, oh, I'm doing it wrong, and you just know you're not going to do it. You just know you've done something wrong. Sometimes you can recover, but it's really important, the initial bit of the movement, to set your hips going in the right trajectory so your center of mass is going the right way. And Ben is very good at that, but it's particularly hard to figure out in just a couple minutes.
here he goes with only seconds to spare. 20 seconds on the clock. He's going to look for it one more time.
Last boulder, no reason to hold it back.
And that's the round for Ben Hanna.
Yeah, he had an excellent performance, but you could kind of see there at the end, he knew he could do the boulder. He was a little frustrated. I'm sure he's still happy with his performance, but it's always hard to leave a finish like that.
There he is again, finding his way through before sliding that knee bar. And here's Zach Gala, our current first place competitor. Certainly hoping for a top from Zach Gala with his level of ability, the fact that he made it into the finals in the World Cup, and just raw strength. I do expect him to be able to find his way through this initial dyno, find his way to that zone, which, as you can see in our scorecard here,
Zach is especially very good at this. He's actually a bit on the shorter side for an athlete, but he can jump. He knows what to do. He's incredible at these flow styles. That right there, that was subtle and impressive. Both his feet came off the start. He just cored up and put him back
Poured
on.
up hard.
That's a subtle, small thing that's easy to miss, but that was incredibly impressive. Zach has flows. And this move right here, it's a flow move. Oh, wow. Didn't even go all the way, just matched.
Matches it.
That was a strength move, actually. That was not a flows move.
Yeah, absolutely. Now Zach with control of the zone. Was important for him to maintain that first place position. Now he's safely secured that, taking a quick rest on that knee before he makes his way into the finish. I am certainly cheering him on in my mind as he makes his way through this last short sequence.
The feet here, they're not very obvious. There's a lot of holds, but none of them are good, so he's trying to really like figure out how to get comfy. Ooh. Yeah, that's a tricky thing right there. Another important thing to factor in when you're like assessing the difficulty of all these boulders is all these athletes climbed yesterday for several hours doing 6 boulders that were quite difficult. And then this morning, they climbed 4 boulders that were incredibly difficult. They were very hard. And then this evening, right now, they're climbing 4 more boulders and trying their hardest on every single boulder. And that's a lot for anyone.
So for you, having been in that position several times, when you go through a long day of qualifiers, you have semifinals in the morning, it's a common format, and then make your way into finals, are you commonly exhausted by the time you get to finals?
It's kind of surprising. I'll go to the gym and I'll do long sessions. I like doing high volume things, and I feel fine. I go home and I'm like, yeah, this is normal. This is how I train. Competitions are somehow different. Let's see what he can do
Gala
here.
Opting for the heel, but
tricky move there. So yeah, it's. I think just in a competition, there's some other factors that just make them surprisingly tiring, like more tiring than even I would expect. And I've done these for a very long time. It's exhausting.
Is it the pressure, the added adrenaline of being in that moment, or do you think because you're at a competition, you're trying harder than you realize, or trying much harder than you do when you're training at home because it's all on the line? Wow, excellent save by Zach.
Recovery there, yes. Let's
Zach
see what happens
fast
here.
now
Come
with only
on,
20
Zach.
seconds on the clock.
New beta here.
Skipping the blue hold. Not going to work out. Now, just about 10 seconds. Looking for it one more time. You have to be incredibly fast to make it happen.
Good effort
Zach Gala
there.
leaving it all out there as we would expect him to. Excellent climbing by Zach.
So back to the idea of all the things that make a competition difficult. They're all new boulders. They're tricky boulders. Figuring out beta is hard. So usually in a gym, you're not really going in and trying a bunch of new things as hard as possible, trying to send as many things. Sometimes you've done them before. You maybe know the style of your gym, what the setting is, so you're a little more familiar. Other things that happen, a lot of the holds in competitions are newer, actually, so the skin wears away a lot faster. There is pressure. You're trying really hard. Everybody wants to podium. They want to do their best, and they're in the zone. So you're just trying harder, and I think it just all adds up. Like maybe there's not one thing that makes it so much different, but it is overall the experience is not quite the same. Hard to explain, or it's hard to really know what's going on unless you've been in a competition.
Yeah, I could see that. Kai Leitner looking really smooth on that opening dyno. Taking a different approach here with the right foot on right now. Really taking the time to work things out. It almost looks like he's going to want to keep that knee where it is.
Can he reach it with the knee bar? Looks like he thinks he can, but it's not a comfy thing.
Oh, very cool, Kai. I imagine that left hand, that red hold is very bad.
They're
Very bad.
quite bad, especially it's a little hard to tell. The top panel is a little overhanging, not very. But when you put those holds on a little overhang, they become terrible.
Kai now taking his time, resting up. 2 minutes on the clock, plenty of time still to take it home. It's really about making each individual effort count at this moment. There he goes again. Gains that zone. He's going to find that knee. Looks like he did try to keep the knee in that time for the move, although it didn't seem to help at all. Now with only a minute left, I am curious if he will find a way.
Knowing how good these athletes are at these kind of jumpy flow moves makes Ben Hanna's effort of almost getting the top even more impressive.
Kai now with under 40 seconds left. Gets the knee bar, loads up,
and he controls it.
Yes, sir.
Incredible.
Kai Leitner now with eyes on the top, gains it with
Incredible.
1 and 2. Kai Leitner takes it home.
First top of
Boulder
men's
number 4. Excellent work by Kai Leitner, really making things work there.
Incredible knee bar there. It was too far away to reach with his hips in that position, but as he goes, he rotates his body and gets his hip higher, and then he's able
Gains
to reach.
that right toe hook down low. Very nice climbing. Very cool by Kai Leitner.
There's a lot of magic going out on these walls tonight. Knee bars, sometimes people bash them for being lame and not very cool, but they're a skill and they are hard. There's a lot of nuance to them. And Kai did a very good job with that one.
We spoke about dramatic things that could happen. Kai Leitner now the only person to top all 4 boulders. He might have taken it right there. Very cool upset by Kai Leitner taking home boulder number 4. Yeah, as you can see here on our scorecard, Zach or Ben not taking it home, not finding that top, and Kai Leitner managing to top this one in addition to all the others. We've talked about attempts extensively throughout the day, and attempts, they do matter, but in the end, even if you've taken more attempts, if you've topped more boulders than other competitors have done, in the end, that's what matters the most, is who sent the most amount of boulders. So very cool to see Kai Leitner sitting in first place right now. Here we got Charlie Barron. Also with tops of the other 3 boulders. If Charlie can find a way through, that could change things again. But we'll just have to see. Same with Ross Fulkerson, tops of the other 3 boulders. I think it's still anyone's game. We'll have to wait and find out. 2 climbers left. Just Charlie and Ross. Charlie now with 2 minutes left. Exciting round. Charlie finds his way through to the zone. Big swing, manages to control it. Let's see if he finds that knee. seems that the second half of this boulder is really what's going to determine the way that this competition goes in the end. A quick no hands, quick shake. Goes for the knee. Looks like he may be onto something. He seems to have the idea. Yes,
Very
Charlie.
nice.
Gains the right toe hook, stays tight. Looking for this match.
Back heel hook there.
Finds the
Finish.
top and the match for Charlie Barron.
Incredible.
Excellent work.
With the knee there, it's important to get the toe and the knee in the right position, but also the way his right foot was pressing on the volume. You can kind of post up, move your hips right here. His right foot, that matters a lot. It's not just the knee, but where he places it so that he can generate
The drive
upward
from
momentum.
that right foot. I see that.
And in this case, it's also, you have to go dynamically. It's not quite close enough where you can just twist and reach. You have to dynamically move off the knee.
Very cool, and I'd love to see an updated score now to see where that puts Charlie in relation to Kai Leitner. And see, they're still changing. Charlie Barron now in first place. Now,
This is
Kai,
an exciting final boulder. A lot's coming down to this boulder.
Kai and Charlie both with 4 tops, but in this case, it comes back to attempts again, where you can see on the right side, 16 attempts in total for Charlie Barron, 19 for Kai Leitner. And we will see if Ross can do this. You can see on the scorecard there, he's got 13 attempts currently. That means, if I'm reading this right, he's got 3 attempts to find the top and make it to first. And attempts go quick, that's 1. That's 2. That puts him at 15 attempts total. If he sends it this very next try, that puts him at 16 attempts. That's tied with Charlie Barron as far as I understand it. And in the event of a tie, do you roll back to semifinals?
I'm pretty sure. I'm not actually 100% up to date with all the current rules, but I'm pretty sure that's how it goes.
Well, don't quote us on that. We think it's how it goes, but we'll find out. After this attempt, I don't believe that it will matter unless he takes it to the top.
So far, so good.
We've got some drama on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. Ross Fulkerson looking so good, gains the zone. Now it is a question of whether he will read the end correctly or not.
He's definitely strong enough, but this is a complicated move.
Oh
Incredible.
My God, Ross
That is
Fulkerson
incredible.
Unreal. Ross Fulkerson is
Come
so
on.
strong, finds the match.
Wow.
Come on, Ross. Ross finds the top with style. Ross is for real.
That was incredible. That
Ross
was
Fulkerson is no
so
joke.
strong. That was a lot of muscle. That was brute strength. He did not use his technique around that one.
Oh
His
my
feet slipped,
gosh.
and he still held it.
Loving this replay.
Wow. Look
Ross
at
off
that.
the heel.
All of those holds are terrible, and his feet came off. That was strong.
Now his feet come off again, and then just for fun,
Just a little one-arm
spins around backwards.
one-arm style there.
Just for fun. Ross Fulkerson, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
Now I'd love to see that scorecard again. If we're right, he's got the same amount.
One
Zone.
more
zone
attempt.
to get to the zone. So you can see there on that scorecard, in tops, Charlie and Ross both have 16 attempts on the right side, but you can see the little Z there representing the zone. Charlie beat him to the zone 1 time, and it's going to cost Ross the win. Charlie Barron takes it with Ross Fulkerson.
That was
in
an
second.
unusually exciting final boulder. A lot of action happened right there.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Now, for our viewers at home, y'all just sit tight. We're going to do a quick award ceremony. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We're going to do a quick podium, see these gentlemen out the right way. We will see you on the other side of the climbing wall on the podium. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the awards ceremony for the 2021 USA Climbing North American Cup Series bouldering stop at the USA Climbing Training Center. Please welcome the men's medalists. There you go. Once again, the awards will be presented by our route setting team, Chief Route Setter Jeremy Harden. We have Jeremy Ho, Cody Grotsky, Enrico Bystrocki, Josh Larson. And then in third place, taking the bronze medal, let's make some noise for Kai Leitner. In second place, such a close round, taking the silver medal, Ross Fulkerson. Lastly, in first place, taking the gold medal and winning the 2021 USA Climbing North American Cup Series bouldering stop at the USA Climbing Training Center is Charlie Barron. Ladies and gentlemen, at home and in this venue, thank you so much for joining us. It has been quite the competition. Everything we were hoping for from the North American Cup. We will see you next time. Tune in. See you then. Good night.
Attention everybody, if you are still in the venue and wouldn't mind helping us out a little bit, if you find a white folding chair, if you could please close said chair up, bring it out into the